Chapter 1046. Du Xiaofu even vaguely felt a sense of familiarity from the aura coming from afar, as if it was connected to him. There were a lot of onlookers in front of him. There were close to 1,000 people. Recently, many experts from all the factions of the 9 states, the Beast region, and the Yao realm had arrived on Tianhuang mainland. The originally sparsely populated Tianhuang mainland had become extremely lively. Moo! Just as Du Xiaofu approached, the sound of an energy explosion rang out, and a thunderous roar echoed through the surrounding mountains like a clap of thunder. It shook the surrounding mountains and caused a lot of rocks to fall down, and the echoes continued to roll endlessly. There were 2 people fighting fiercely in front of him. They were respectively dealing with 2 huge demonic beasts. There were also several demonic beast corpses on the ground, but their cultivation levels were not as strong as the 2 huge demonic beasts that were still fighting fiercely. There were 2 gigantic demonic beasts. One of them was a gigantic demonic leopard covered in blue scales. Its body was several hundred feet long, and its aura was at the peak of the complete circle of the Beast Emperor realm. Its bloody mouth had a mouthful of sharp teeth, and its 4 powerful legs were like heavenly pillars. Its pair of terrifying eyes were abnormally ferocious, and runes were erupting from it. Its roar caused the surrounding mountains to tremble, and the earth to shake as if there was an earthquake. When Du Xiaofu's gaze landed on another gigantic demonic beast, his gaze suddenly trembled, and his heart trembled violently. Du Xiaofu's gaze landed on a colossal figure. Its terrifying aura spread across the sky, making it difficult for ordinary cultivators to breathe and obstructing the Xian Qi in their bodies. It was a gigantic bull that was over 1,000 feet in size. Its entire body was crimson black with a tinge of gold. The surface of its body was covered in black and gold flames. Its 4 gigantic legs stood tall in the sky. On its pair of crescent-shaped horns, golden talisman patterns flickered. Its aura was terrifying. The most peculiar thing was that this giant bull had a pair of golden wings that did not belong to the bull clan. Its wings were huge and glittering with golden light. It emitted an unparalleled pressure. Even though the giant bull's cultivation was at the peak of the complete Beast Emperor realm, it was enough to make an ordinary martial saint who had just ascended to martial saint tremble. At this moment, 2 extraordinary youths were dealing with the blue leopard and the black gold ox respectively. And Zhuixu's strength is not bad. And Yuchen is not weak either. Both of them have just reached the martial honorable realm, and their names have shaken Lan Prefecture. The reputation of the 2 brothers in the Lan Prefecture is only below Mo Wushang. Even if it's Mo Wushang, he would have to retreat a little if he met the 2 brothers together. The Sky Desolation Leopard and the Ancient Crimson Heavenly Flame Bull are also terrifying, especially the Ancient Crimson Heavenly Flame Bull. It seems to have mutated and is very powerful. The Desolate Sky Leopard and the Ancient Crimson Sky Flame Bull are both savage beasts of the Tianhuang continent. I didn't expect their bloodlines to have reached such a level. If the 2 brothers in Zhuixu and in Yuchen were to tame them as mounts, they would undoubtedly be a great help in the future. Mounts aren't easy to tame, but those 2 brothers aren't ordinary people either. There's a good chance that we'll succeed today. There was a lot of discussion in the surroundings, and all eyes were focused on the fierce battle in the field. At that moment, the 2 similar-looking youths on the battlefield each unleashed a terrifying might, suppressing the Ancient Crimson Heavenly Flame Bull and Desolation Sky Leopard before them. Senior brethren, do your best. Tame those 2 evil beasts. Not far away, there were many young men and women cheering. Some old and middle-aged men nodded inwardly with smiles in their eyes. Moo! The Ancient Crimson Heavenly Flame Bull and the Ancient Crimson Heavenly Flame Bull were extremely similar. Its roar was like thunder, and the energy of heaven and earth around its huge body fluctuated chaotically. Black and gold runes flickered on its body, accompanied by black flames jumping. Its huge body was like a meteorite as it charged towards an extraordinary youth. Evil beast, submit to me and be my mount. Otherwise, I'll kill you. The youth facing the Ancient Crimson Heavenly Flame Bull was rather domineering. His robe fluttered as he punched at the Ancient Crimson Heavenly Flame Bull. The youth's punches exploded with runes that could shatter mountains and distort space, suppressing the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull. Roar! Not far away, the desolation sky leopard roared. Blue runes erupted all over its body, bringing with it a monstrous rune impact. Energy boiled around its body, and wherever its huge body passed, the place cracked, bringing with it a desolate aura. Be my mount, otherwise you'll die. The other youth seemed to have a fiery temper, and he was also very arrogant. Runes flowed from his body as he leaped up and punched the desolation sky leopard, suppressing it. The intense battle between the two men and the two beasts had lasted for a long time. However, many people in the surroundings could tell that the two beasts had been suppressed. If not for the two young men, who had just reached the martial honorable realm, holding back and wanting to subdue the two beasts would have been unable to resist. However, even if they had persevered until now, the two beasts were in a desperate situation. Bang! The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull was pushed back by the youth, and the golden wings on its back exploded with golden light, stopping it from retreating. Its huge eyes were like gongs, burning with black and gold flames, and it was extremely furious. Evil beast, I'll ask you one last time, will you be my mount? The youth stepped into the air and shouted at the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull. You're not qualified. How can I, Scarlet Rock, be anyone's mount? The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull opened its mouth, and its roar was like thunder. The golden wings on its back were like the wings of a rock, and as it flapped, a golden energy storm surged like waves. It splashed up a few 100 feet high, and it charged towards the youth. The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull wanted to fight to the end, and it would not become a human's mount. Evil beast, you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The youth shouted coldly, and he threw out a punch. His fist was covered with runes, and it collided with the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull, forcing it to retreat. Dang dang. However, the youth was also forced back by the golden storm under the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull's wings. The overbearing aura brought about by the golden wings made him wary. Scarlet Rock, you're fast. Leave immediately and find my father to kill these humans. Otherwise, I won't acknowledge you as my brother. The Sky Desolation Leopard spoke. Its voice was clear, but it was a female voice. Its huge body charged towards the youth. It was ferocious and terrifying, but it was also agile. I won't abandon you, Big Sister Blue Fantasy. The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull shouted, and its huge body flew across the sky. The surrounding heaven and earth rumbled, and the ground beneath its feet cracked. At the same time, the black gold runes around its body flooded a large area like waves. Heavy peak martial vein, suppress. Facing the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull's martial vein, the youth could only suppress the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull, who was at the peak of the complete beast emperor realm. If he wanted to completely suppress the savage beast, he knew that he had to activate his artery spirit. Rumble. The young man activated his meridian spirit, and the mysterious runes on his body surged. The dazzling runes around his body seemed to turn into a mountain range that was accompanied by the surging of wind and clouds. The power of lightning and thunder suppressed the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull. Human King Heavenly Disposition, senior brother, and is going to win. Not far away, many young men and women revealed smiles. In their hearts, they already knew that the two beasts were definitely going to lose. The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull finally found it more and more difficult to resist. Its huge body flapped its golden wings, and it was forced to retreat. Large mouthfuls of blood flowed from its mouth. I'd rather die in battle than submit to you. The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull roared, and from its bloody mouth, it spat out a black gold flame. It turned into a black gold flame halo, and with blazing runes, it blocked the youth's martial vein collapse. Evil beast will always be evil beast. The youth shouted coldly, and activated his martial vein. With a mighty aura, he waved his hand and slapped at the black gold flame halo of the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull. Suddenly, tens of thousands of runes burst forth, and waves of fire splashed in all directions. The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull finally couldn't resist. It coughed out blood again, and its huge body was forced back. "Evil beast, if you don't want to be my mount, then I'll dig out your bones and draw out your blood," the youth shouted coldly. Although it was a pity, he didn't want to waste any more time. With a terrifying aura, the runes gathered into the phantom of a mountain, and it instantly pressed down on the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull's head. That terrifying aura erupted, and everyone could feel the killing intent of the youth. The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull was about to be killed. "Get out of my way." At this moment, a purple-robed youth appeared in front of the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull, and golden light erupted from his body. In the next instant, the purple-robed youth slapped his hand forward, and golden runes flew out. It was like a golden rock spreading its wings, and it was incomparably domineering as it swept out with one wing. Walala, golden light erupted, and the phantom mountain attack formed by the youth was instantly destroyed. Rumbling sounds echoed in the surroundings, and it seemed like the world was about to explode. Then, the crowd saw the body of the young man, who had been extraordinary and peerless just a moment ago, fall from the sky like a bird with broken wings. Blood continuously spat out from the youth's mouth. He was unable to withstand a single blow, and he heavily smashed onto the ground. Everything happened too quickly, and some people didn't even have time to react. "You should leave too." A beautiful woman also appeared in front of the desolation sky leopard, whose mouth was filled with blood, as it was retreating in defeat. She waved her hand, and a palm print that seemed to be filled with surging vitality immediately appeared in front of the second youth. This light palm had an aura that was filled with vitality, but for some unknown reason, it caused the second youth's hair to stand on end. He could only forcefully endure the fear in his heart, and send a palm strike with all his strength. Chapter 1047. Boom! Runes burst forth as the palms collided. A muffled rumble of energy resounded from the point of collision. A storm swept through the surrounding mountains like a tornado, sweeping away rocks and broken trees. Sand and rocks flew in all directions as the wind and clouds surged. The entire area was thrown into chaos as the ground shook violently. The second young man was also suddenly sent flying backwards. Blood spurted from his mouth as his body smashed into a pile of rocks. Following the appearance of the young man and woman, many people in the surroundings immediately shrunk their necks. These two young men and woman were too strong. The two brothers, Nzwishu and Inyuchin, could not even withstand a single blow. Just how terrifying was this? Could it be that they are the younger generation of those secluded great sects? Many gazes trembled as they stared intently at the young man and woman. All of them were stunned in their hearts. At this moment, the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull and the desolate sky leopard also revealed surprised expressions at the sudden appearance of reinforcements. Du Xiaofu had a doubtful expression in their huge eyes. The ones who had just lent a helping hand were naturally Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. Du Xiaofu looked at the enormous ancient crimson heavenly flame bull in front of him. His stern expression turned gentle as he smiled and said, "Little fellow, do you not recognize me?" The ancient crimson heavenly flame bull's eyes brightened as its body trembled in excitement. It had recognized the young man in front of it as well as the fairy-like beauty nearby. "Big brother, big sister, why have you come?" A moment later, the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull choked out a sentence. It really did not know what to call the purple-robed young man, but it knew who the purple-robed young man and the fairy-like beauty were. They were the third and fourth living beings it had seen since it was born, with the exception of its parents. "Little fellow, your improvement is really frightening." Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. Compared to the beast tribe, the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull before him was just a toddler. However, its cultivation had already reached such a frightening level. This ancient crimson heavenly flame bull was the crimson crow flame bull that Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing had met in the dark forest. The scarlet rock that was born from Crimson Crow and Embermane did not drink milk when it was born. Instead, it drank Du Xiaofu's golden-winged rock blood. Although Scarlet Rock should have evolved from the scarlet black flaming bull to the ancient crimson sky flaming bull, Du Xiaofu could tell at a glance that the aura on Scarlet Rock was related to him. "Brother, I finally see you again." Scarlet Rock was excited. Faint golden ripples appeared in its crimson-black flame-like eyes. Its huge body immediately transformed into a young boy around 10 years old. The young boy was dressed in black and gold. He had a sturdy and well-built body. Faint golden ripples appeared in his eyes. However, there were 2 small horns on his forehead, making him look extremely cute. Scarlet Rock, who had transformed into a young boy, immediately ran to Du Xiaofu's side and acted intimately. To him, the purple-robed youth in front of him was his family. The blood that flowed in their bodies was connected. The desolate sky leopard's huge body also transformed. As the runes flashed, it finally transformed into a girl that seemed to be only 2 or 3 years older than Du Xiaoqing. Her delicate body exuded a kind of vigorous gentleness. Her extremely special light blue hair was so shiny that it could reflect one's appearance. It naturally draped over her waist. She wore a tight blue armor that outlined an absolutely seductive curve. Her entire person was like a blue fairy. The girl stepped forward to Scarlet Rock's side. Her graceful figure was extremely graceful, and her temperament was otherworldly. She also exuded a kind of vigorous and indescribable allure. She was curiously looking at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. At this moment, a beautiful girl and a black-clothed youth were approaching. She also saw the little golden macaque on the beautiful and ethereal girl's body. She could feel that their auras were extraordinary. "Oh, this little calf is so strong. What a surprise. Little calf, do you still recognize me?" Du Xiaoyao stood on Du Xiaoqing's shoulder and glanced at Scarlet Rock. Back then in the dark forest, he would never forget how that little calf had peed on him. "Hee, you're that stone demon?" Scarlet Rock looked at Du Xiaoyao. It took him a while to recognize Du Xiaoyao. "Scarlet Rock, who are they?" The girl asked Scarlet Rock as she looked at Du Xiaofu and the others. "Big Sister Blue Fantasy, they're my brother and sister. They're my family. It's a long story, I'll tell you when we get back," Scarlet Rock said happily to Blue Fantasy. "Thank you for your help, but they're very strong. Can you help me take Scarlet Rock away and find my father?" Blue Fantasy's expression was still dignified. There was still a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. On her charming face, her long eyelashes fluttered, and her large eyes shone with a sharp light. However, they were clear and noble. She stared at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. She knew that they were friends and not enemies. Du Xiaofu looked at the girl. Her body was curvy under her armor, and her waist was tight. It was as if she was silently seducing him, sending out a seductive invitation. This girl's attire was clearly not glamorous, but it gave off a charming feeling. She was not as direct as Li Shui and was much more reserved. However, she had a wild charm that seemed to come from her bones and could quietly tug at a man's nerves. "Don't worry, you'll be fine," Du Xiaofu said to Blue Fantasy. This girl, who was a Desolation Panther, was still able to let Scarlet Rock go first in such a dangerous situation. It was enough to show that her relationship with Scarlet Rock was not ordinary. "Bastards, who are you?" As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, a loud roar was heard. Over 100 people clustered together and helped the 2 bloodied and miserable youths up. The leader of the group was a short and fat elder. He stared gloomily at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. "You can leave now. Otherwise, I won't be polite. Even a chaotic element martial honor might not be able to take advantage of me." Du Xiaofu stared at the short and fat elder. His eyes were sharp and he did not back down. These people had injured Scarlet Rock and had already angered Du Xiaofu. If it were not for the fact that there were so many people around him and he had his reservations, Du Xiaofu would have attacked long ago. "Kid, you must be tired of living. You dared to touch a disciple of my Ancient Fist sect, and even dare to act so arrogantly in front of my Ancient Fist sect. Come and report it to me," the short and fat old man shouted in a deep voice. However, a trace of seriousness and suspicion flashed across his eyes. That young man was actually able to see through his cultivation with a single glance. Given how terrifying his strength was, it was likely that his background was definitely not ordinary. Therefore, although the elder was furious, he did not dare to attack immediately. Instead, he beat around the bush to find out the other party's identity. His name is Du Xiaofu. He is Gu Qingyang's disciple. Fat revered Buddha, I dare you to touch a single hair on his head. As the last word was uttered, a white-haired elder appeared in the sky. His white robes fluttered in the wind, and he had the demeanor of a transcendent being. He had white hair and a white beard. He carried an ancient sword on his back and stood with his hands behind his back. He looked like a peerless expert. Du Xiaofu, that's Du Xiaofu, the Demon King. Everyone was stunned when they heard that. The name of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was now famous across Tianhuang mainland. At that moment, the short and fat old man's gaze was extremely ugly as he stared at the old man in white. The corners of his eyes twitched and his expression was gloomy as he said, Gu Qingyang, it's a small world. Just you wait in your ancient heaven sect. Let's go. In the end, the short and fat elder waved his hand and left with over 100 disciples of the ancient fist sect. He did not linger at all. Master, why have you come? Du Xiaofu was pleasantly surprised. Who else could the peerless expert who had appeared be other than his master, Gu Qingyang? There are more and more experts in Tianhuang mainland. The Manchu was worried and sent me here as well. Your Grand Master Golden Rock is also here. However, he has already gone to scout ahead. Gu Qingyang watched as the ancient fist sect's fat Buddha left, then smiled at Du Xiaofu. His two front teeth protruded out, and his saliva splattered everywhere. Suddenly, the image of a peerless expert disappeared. Whoosh whoosh, many wind-breaking sounds could be heard in the sky behind them. Then, many figures streaked across the sky and appeared in the sky. Familiar figures immediately fell into Du Xiaofu's eyes. They were none other than Yin Mochen, Shui Rihan, Qin Ling, Si Ruofeng, and the other outstanding talents of the ancient heaven sect's younger generation, third senior brother Yu Wanli, first senior brother Jian Santong, Chang Mingze, elder Hu Songquan, and the others. Chapter 1048. There were also several experts that Du Xiaofu had seen before. They were all venerable-level experts of the ancient heaven sect who had entered the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron to train their bodies. I heard that you're quite famous in the Tianhuang mainland now. You killed Xue Qianzhan of the Heaven Knife sect of Hanzhou and angered the dragons. Shen Ling stared at Du Xiaofu in shock and said, You're really famous everywhere you go. Do you want to try? The dragons also have a Dragon 9. How about I let you have him? Du Xiaofu chuckled and said to Shen Ling, Dragon 9. Hearing this, Xiang Ling immediately sucked in a breath of cold air and almost couldn't recover from his shock. He said, Forget it. I saw Long Jiao's strength the day before yesterday. He easily killed a beast sovereign stage Nirvana realm Lei Yunyan. I'm no match for him. You should be careful. Alright, let's leave this place first. The ancient fist sect didn't send only one venerable fatty. If the other one comes, it'll be troublesome. Gu Qingyang said. The two disciples of the ancient fist sect were severely injured just now. They probably wouldn't let this matter rest. The ancient fist sect wouldn't be inferior to the ancient heaven sect. Brother, Sister Blue Fantasy and I have to go back too. Otherwise, Uncle Huang will be worried. Scarlet Rock's eyes shone with a faint golden light as she said to Du Xiaofu, Why don't you guys come with me too? My father and mother often talk about you. If they know that you're here, they'll be very happy. Your father and mother are here too? Du Xiaofu asked Scarlet Rock. Yes, father and mother have always been here. Scarlet Rock nodded. We've always lived here. The entire Tianhuang mainland belongs to us. It's just that a lot of humans and beasts have come recently. Many of them have killed many of our beasts. How detestable! Blue Fantasy's eyes were wild and fierce. Recently, many beasts had been killed by humans on the Tianhuang mainland. She and Scarlet Rock had brought a few powerful beasts out for revenge, but they were suppressed by the two young men in the end. If they hadn't been rescued, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Is the Tianhuang mainland's beasts? Du Xiaofu asked Blue Fantasy. Blue Fantasy looked at Du Xiaofu and Blue Fantasy looked at Du Xiaofu and then said, Blue looked at Du Xiaofu, Blue Fantasy looked at Du Xiaofu and Rock. If that's the case, it should be quite easy for you to find someone, right? Du Xiaofu's eyes lit up. Then he asked Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy, I need to find someone. I wonder if you can help? Brother, are you looking for a human? Scarlet Rock asked Du Xiaofu. That's right. He's on the Tianhuang mainland now. I have to find him as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu nodded. If he could get the help of the beasts on the Tianhuang mainland, there was no doubt that he would have a much higher chance of finding his drunkard father. Sister Blue Fantasy? Scarlet Rock looked at Blue Fantasy with pleading eyes. Blue Fantasy looked at Scarlet Rock, then at Du Xiaofu and said, My father won't agree to help a human. However, you just saved me and I'm indebted to you. I don't think my father won't help you, but I can't guarantee it. However, I can bring you back to ask my father. If my father agrees, then everything will be fine. I can get all the beasts to help you find him. Thank you. Du Xiaofu nodded and was willing to go back with Blue Fantasy. I can't bring them back. Humans are not welcome at our place. Blue Fantasy looked at Gu Qingyang, Shen Ling, In Machen, and the others and said. Du Xiaofu understood. He glanced at Gu Qingyang and said, Master, I have some matters to attend to. I'll bid you farewell and find you later. Xiaofu, you're in a very dangerous situation right now. Some of the beasts on the Tianhuang mainland aren't easy to deal with either. Gu Qingyang frowned. He was obviously worried. Don't worry, Master. I'll be fine, Du Xiaofu assured Gu Qingyang. Then I'll go with you alone. Gu Qingyang was still worried. Du Xiaofu had already offended the dragons. Now there was the Ancient Fist sect in the Sky Saber sect. How could he not worry about his beloved disciple? Don't worry, Master. I'll be fine. There are dangers everywhere. The disciples of the Manchus still need Master's protection. Du Xiaofu glanced at the people of the Manchu sect. Although the ancient Sky sect had more than one martial honorable, they weren't enough to protect the disciples of the Manchu in the Tianhuang mainland. All right then. Be careful. Seeing Du Xiaofu's insistence and the disciples of the Manchu needing his protection, Gu Qingyang nodded in agreement. His disciple also seemed to be confident. Whoosh whoosh. Then, Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qingqing, Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Little Tiger left with Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock, carrying the corpses of the beasts on the ground. This guy seems to have an extraordinary girl by his side. Shui Ruhen's blue eyes were filled with ripples. She looked at Dongli Qingqing's back and murmured. As Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy left, Du Xiaofu learned from Scarlet Rock that Scarlet Rock and her parents lived in the Tianhuang mainland. Back then, Scarlet Rock had gone to the dark forest because she was pregnant and her strength was greatly reduced. She had no choice but to leave to avoid powerful beasts. In the end, she accidentally found the black flame spirit ginseng in the dark forest. Then, she met Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. After Scarlet Rock and Yan Qi left the dark forest, they didn't return to the Tianhuang mainland immediately. Instead, they came across another opportunity. After Scarlet Rock broke through to the Beast Lord realm, she didn't have to worry about powerful enemies and returned to the Tianhuang mainland. Although Scarlet Rock was young, he drank the blood of the golden-winged rock at birth and displayed terrifying talent. Perhaps because of the golden-winged rock's blood, the ancient Crimson Sky Firebowl bloodline hidden in Scarlet Rock's body was awakened. Together with the benefits of the golden-winged rock's blood, he soared among the beasts and was recognized by one of the three giants of the Tianhuang mainland, the Desolation Leopard. Scarlet Rock was adopted by the Desolation Leopard and received the inheritance of an ancient Crimson Sky Firebowl expert. In a short 7 to 8 years, he grew to the peak of the Beast Lord realm and was known as a miracle of the Tianhuang mainland. Blue Fantasy's father was one of the three giants of the Tianhuang mainland, the Desolation Leopard. He was a terrifying expert of the beast race and controlled all the beasts on the Tianhuang mainland with the other two giants. I still haven't formally thanked you. Thank you for saving Scarlet Rock and me. Lan Huan displayed her body in the midair. The curve of her body under her armor was outlined, giving her a kind of beauty and wildness. If one did not know that she was a frightening sky desolation leopard, it was likely that any man would have an intense desire to conquer her. Miss Blue Fantasy, you're too serious. Given my relationship with Scarlet Rock, there's no need for you to thank me, Du Xiaofu smiled. Dongli Qingqing smiled at Blue Fantasy and followed closely beside Du Xiaofu without saying anything. Are you a human couple? Blue Fantasy looked at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing and asked curiously. She had a graceful figure and an otherworldly aura. She also had a vigorous and indescribable allure. In particular, her light blue hair fluttered in the wind, making her seem like a blue fairy. Chapter 1050. Translator. H2 Mr. When that gaze landed on him, Du Xiaofu instantly felt as if he had been seen through. Dongli Qingqing's eyes twitched. She seemed to have sensed something when the thin middle-aged man looked at her. A faint green glow flashed across her eyes. As the thin middle-aged man sized them up, a hint of doubt suddenly appeared in his deep eyes. There are so many experts. Will these guys do anything to us? Du Xiaoyao sent a voice transmission to Du Xiaofu's mind. We'll act according to the situation, Du Xiaofu replied to Du Xiaoyao. Uncle Huang, that's my brother and sister. It was because of their help that Big Sister Blue Fantasy and I were able to escape danger, Scarlet Rock said to the thin middle-aged man. Qi Peng said to the skinny middle-aged man. He was one of the 3 giants of the beast race on Tianhuang mainland and was also Qi Peng's adoptive father, Desolation Leopard. However, Qi Peng had never changed his words. Scarlet Rock, did you know them before? The Desolation Leopard asked Scarlet Rock as he retracted his gaze from Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. Yes, Scarlet Rock nodded seriously. Uncle Huang, even if these people know Scarlet Rock, it can't prove that this isn't a ruse. I'm afraid that these shameless humans have sent people to investigate us, Jean Lin said to the Desolation Leopard with a respectful expression. He did not dare to be negligent. The Desolation Leopard looked at Jean Lin before glancing past Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qingqing and the others. He replied to Jean Lin, Nephew Jean Lin, how do you think we should separate them? Although they're humans, if they've really saved Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy, we should treat them with respect. Uncle Huang, with the cultivation of Little Sister Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock, if these 2 humans want to save Little Sister Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock, their strength must be extraordinary. Why don't you let me test their strength? Jean Lin said to the Desolation Leopard with pride and confidence in his eyes. Father, Blue Fantasy's face darkened slightly when she heard that. She looked at her father and Rock. They're my benefactors. It doesn't Rock Atlas. Humans are very cunning. We should indeed take precautions. The Desolation Leopard waved his hand to indicate that there was no need for Blue Fantasy to say anything more. He calmly raised his head and looked at Du Xiaofu. He said, My 2 friends, there have been many grievances between us magical beasts and humans recently. We need to be careful of some humans with ulterior motives. For the sake of all the magical beasts on the Desolation Cliff, why don't the 2 of you take some action? With him. Du Xiaofu looked around, and his slightly serious expression relaxed. He glanced at Jean Lin in front of him and said casually, Then if I win, what does it mean? If you can defeat Jean Lin, I believe that those humans won't feel at ease letting such a talented junior come to the Desolation Cliff, said the Desolation Leopard. He looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled meaningfully. All right then. After Du Xiaofu said that, he took a few steps forward. Du Xiaoyao jumped from his shoulder to Du Xiaoqing's shoulder. Seeing Du Xiaofu walk out, Blue Fantasy's worried expression relaxed quite a bit. You 2 humans can attack together. Jean Lin looked at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. His cold gaze swept across them, causing the entire space to turn cold as if frost had descended. At this moment, Qi Yen and Yen Qi were the most worried. They looked at Scarlet Rock with serious eyes. Father, Mother, don't worry. Scarlet Rock was not worried at all. She even had a faint mysterious smile on her face. Just you, I alone will be enough. Du Xiaofu walked out. His entire body fluctuated with a faint golden light as he walked towards Jean Lin. The aura that spread out from the golden light immediately caused the eyes of many beast race experts to tremble. It was as if they felt a terrifying aura. Shameless boasting. I hate humans the most. I'll let you know how powerful I, Jean Lin, am. Jean Lin was gloomy as he looked down at Du Xiaofu. His entire body began to glow with a yellow light, emitting a terrifying fluctuation. He waved his hand and punched towards Du Xiaofu like a black tiger digging out its heart. Everything happened too quickly. Jin Lin's attack was too fast. It was as fast as lightning. His attack was fierce and tyrannical. He did not show any mercy. He wanted to get rid of the human in front of him in one move. Humph! Jin Lin was fast and incomparably fierce. However, Du Xiaofu was not an ordinary person. He snorted coldly and directly punched out. Bang bang! Suddenly, a deep sonic boom resounded. Terrifying energy erupted. Runes soared into the sky, dazzling and dazzling. Golden light swept in all directions. Yellow light exploded, shaking the ground in all directions. Dang dang! Under many shocked gazes, Jin Lin's body staggered back. Some people saw that there was blood on Jin Lin's fist. When Jin Lin stabilized his body, his eyes were filled with shock and fear. His fist was numb and the web between his thumb and index finger was cracked. Blood was flowing out. Jin Lin was very powerful. He was confident in his defense. However, his opponent's strength was too great. It was so terrifying. What a domineering punch. It looks simple, but every movement is overbearing. It's like an invincible force. It seems to have fused with a type of martial arts. It's domineering as if it has the power to pull up a mountain. It's sharp as if it can tear the sky apart. The Desolation Leopard's eyes moved. Then he said softly, "However, that aura. Is he a human or a beast?" Behind the Desolation Leopard, the old man in his 50s had a sneer in his eyes. At this moment, his entire face turned gloomy. Roar! Golden runes erupted. Jin Lin transformed into his true form. It was a huge golden lion that was more than 100 feet long. His entire body was covered in golden scales, and dazzling runes burst out. Golden-scaled ancient lion, the peak of the beast sovereign realm. Du Xiaofu raised his head. In front of the huge golden lion, his body seemed extremely small. However, the aura that emanated from his body set off a majestic aura. I wonder what the effect of the golden-scaled ancient lion's blood essence will be. Also, the meat of the golden-scaled ancient lion must be very nutritious. Du Xiaofu looked at the huge golden lion and licked his lips. His eyes revealed a greedy look. Boom! In the next moment, golden runes burst out from the body of the golden-scaled ancient lion. Then they started to arrange themselves. In the end, they turned into an illusory golden lion that was dozens of feet long. The illusory golden lion spread out. As soon as it appeared, it shook the heavens and the earth. Its terrifying power caused the surrounding space to tremble. Roar! The shadow of the golden lion roared as it rushed towards Du Xiaofu. Under that terrifying power, it seemed to want to shatter the surrounding space. Its roar was like thunder, and the sound waves that had materialized swept out in all directions like a vast ocean. It was able to shatter the sky with its roar and suppress all living things in the world. That is Jin Lin's gifted superpower, the Golden Lion Roar. It can destroy one's primordial spirit and shatter one's mind. It is said that an ancient ancestor of the golden-scaled ancient lion clan could shatter the stars and break the mountains with a single roar. The surrounding people exclaimed. Everyone knew how terrifying Jin Lin was. He was the strongest among the younger generation on Tianhuang Cliff. He is very strong. However, he is only at the peak of the beast sovereign realm. Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid at all. His purple robe fluttered as he waved his hand, and golden talisman runes lined up. With a rumbling sound, the golden talisman runes condensed into the silhouette of golden wings. They interweaved into a golden ball of light that collided with the silhouette of the lion and shattered it. Bang! In the next moment, Du Xiaofu appeared in front of the gigantic golden-scaled ancient lion like a ghost. His purple robe was wrapped in golden light, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Du Xiaofu punched out and a golden ocean appeared behind him. It stirred up huge waves in the sky and landed on Jin Lin's body. Bang bang! Jin Lin's gigantic body spat out a mouthful of blood and landed heavily on the ground. He had already transformed back into his human form. However, the impact caused the ground to shake. The golden-scaled ancient lion, who had just reached the peak of the beast's sovereign realm, was defeated easily by Su Mo. This scene caused many beasts to be dumbfounded. They could not believe it. Is that young man in purple a human or a beast? His aura is more like that of us beasts. Some people looked at Du Xiaofu in shock. They could feel that Du Xiaofu's aura was more like that of a beast than a human. Jin Lin got up from the ground with blood dripping from his mouth. He looked at the young man in purple in the air with fear in his eyes. Chapter 1051. Lin, how are you? The old man in his 50s immediately arrived beside the heavily injured Jin Lin. His golden hair draped over his shoulders, and he seemed worried. Jin Lin's mouth was filled with blood. He was unable to speak, but he stuffed quite a few pills into his mouth. Du Xiaoyao drooled on Du Xiaoqing's shoulder when she saw this. The old man supported Jin Lin and looked at Du Xiaofu. His eyes shone with a chilling light, and his presence was definitely terrifying. He said with a deep and heavy voice, "Kid, you sure are vicious. What's your name and where do you come from? If you can't explain yourself today, there's no need for you to leave the desolate cliff." "Uncle Jin-gu, they're my benefactors. They've already proven their strength. Does Uncle Jin-gu still want to make things difficult for my benefactors?" Blue Fantasy said. She smiled on her enchanting face, but there was some sharpness in her eyes. She was like a cheetah. "Brother Jin-gu, these two humans are Blue Fantasy's benefactors. They're also people that the Scarlet Rock has known since she was young. They've already proven their strength, so they shouldn't be human spies. Jin Lin's injuries are quite heavy, so take him away to heal first. Don't let it affect his cultivation in the future," said the desolate leopard. Said the desolation leopard. His voice was calm, but it possessed an extremely great might. The various experts in the surroundings were unable to object. "Then we'll listen to the great commander." The old man called Jin-gu nodded. He withdrew his viciousness without leaving a trace and continued to say to the desolate leopard, "There's also the matter of the dragons. Great commander, please reconsider." With that, Jin-gu hurriedly left with the heavily injured Jin Lin and several others. The dragons. Du Xiaofu's eyes twitched slightly when he heard Jin-gu mention the dragons. Undetectable ripples flickered through his eyes. "Little brother, you really are quite powerful. Humans are extremely insignificant, but the talents of the best among humans can sometimes make beasts envious." The desolate leopard had looked at Du Xiaofu at some point in time. He smiled and said, "Let's find a place to sit alone so that I can express my gratitude for saving my daughter and the Scarlet Rock. At the same time, I want to have a good chat with you." "Father," Blue Fantasy's Jiao Yen was slightly nervous. She seemed to want to say something. Huan's Xian Yen Huan." The desolate leopard smiled at Blue Fantasy. Afterwards, he looked at Du Xiaofu with a faint smile, but he gave off an Inu Xiaofu. Under this pressure, even Little Tiger and Du Xiaoqing were affected. Only Du Xiaofu was able to remain calm and collected. "I'll listen to the commander." Du Xiaofu nodded at the desolate leopard. Afterward, he said to Dongli Qingqing and Du Xiaoyao, "Wait for me here. Don't go too far." Dongli Qingqing and Du Xiaoyao nodded in understanding. They obviously knew what Du Xiaofu meant. He wanted them to be more vigilant. A while later, Du Xiaofu followed the desolate leopard into the huge stone palace. Boom! The palace suddenly shook. The surrounding space immediately froze. The surrounding space had been sealed. Du Xiaofu raised his head. His clear eyes suddenly glowed with a golden light. A golden light shot out from his tall and thin body in purple robes. The cape on the desolate sky leopard's back fluttered, and the pattern on it moved like runes. Its eyes were suffused with a deep black and white light, covering it with a gloomy glow. A terrifying aura spread out from its body, immediately sweeping towards Du Xiaofu. Thump, thump. Du Xiaofu staggered back. Under the crushing pressure of the enormous aura, it was as if there was an enormous force of millions of kilograms pressing down on him. It wanted to crush his bones, crush his blood, and crush his body into powder. The huge pressure was accompanied by inscriptions that swept out from the space. It was as vast as the ocean. The opponent was a half-region expert. Du Xiaofu's gaze turned grave. The difference in cultivation level was difficult to overcome. There was no way to resist. Golden light shot out as he circulated the golden-winged rock cultivation technique with all his strength. Du Xiaofu wanted to resist with the aura of the golden-winged rock. The desolate sky leopard once again let out a soft cry of surprise. It had revealed such a surprised expression when it saw the fight between Du Xiaofu and Jin Lin earlier. The aura on its body increased once again, seemingly forming a vast sea of symbols that surged towards Du Xiaofu like a monstrous wave. Golden-winged rock. Du Xiaofu could no longer resist. He immediately shouted and golden inscriptions shot out from his eyes like a vast golden wave. The materialized golden-winged rock wings on his back were activated. The golden-winged rock wings shone brightly. It was as if the golden-winged rock was going to soar and sweep everything away. Golden-winged rock. It really is the golden-winged rock. The desolate leopard was truly shocked. It gradually withdrew its aura and stared at Du Xiaofu. It was as if it was looking at a monster. It was puzzled. The terrifying pressure disappeared. The golden-winged rock wings on Du Xiaofu's back unfolded slightly, releasing a domineering golden light pressure. At that moment, Du Xiaofu was rather pale. How terrifying was a semi-domain sovereign beast? It was an expert that was even more powerful than the chaotic element martial saint and nirvana martial saint. You're a human, but you possess the aura of a golden-winged rock. You've purposely concealed it, but I can sense that your body is no different from a true golden-winged rock. Your bones, muscles, limbs, and bones are all the same as a golden-winged rock. You even possess the true golden-winged rock's wings. Unbelievable, truly unbelievable. The desolate leopard had been stunned the entire time, as if it could not believe what it was seeing. It stared at Du Xiaofu and said, "Your blood is also the blood of a golden-winged rock." Back then, Scarlet Rock ingested the blood of a golden-winged rock, which is why it's the current Scarlet Rock. It's a treasure among beasts. Commander, you haven't brought me here alone just to test my strength, right? Du Xiaofu stared at the desolate leopard. His golden eyes were sharp and filled with vigilance. He had no choice but to be cautious before a semi-domain sovereign beast. Du Xiaofu could tell how powerful a semi-domain expert was from his master, the venerable artifact, and his brother, Zhen Qingchun. "I brought you here alone because I know who you are," said Yi Zichen. The shock in the desolate leopard's eyes gradually receded. It regained its composure and looked at Du Xiaofu with a meaningful smile. "Not long ago, Dragon 9 of the Dragons sent people to Desolate Cliff. They hope that I can help them find Du Tingxian and a human called the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Once they're done, they'll give Desolate Cliff some good benefits." Du Xiaofu's golden eyes trembled when he heard that. No wonder Blue Fantasy had told him and Dongli Qingqing to leave immediately. It turned out that Dragon 9's people had come to Desolate Cliff as well. "If I'm not wrong, you should be the Demon King, Du Xiaofu," said the desolate leopard as it completely withdrew its aura. Phew! Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and straightened his back. The golden wings on his back vanished, and his vigilant expression relaxed. He looked at the desolate leopard with a special smile and said, "The great commander really has sharp eyes. It's not that I have sharp eyes, but that girl, Blue Fantasy, is acting a little strange today. She heard Jin Gu and I talking about the dragons looking for you and Du Tingxian, so she immediately told her savior to leave. Coupled with the descriptions I've heard about you recently, I think you can only be the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, without a doubt." The desolate leopard smiled. Its eyes were filled with confidence. It was confident in its guess. "The great commander is afraid of dragons. Could it be that you want to give your daughter's savior to the dragons in exchange for benefits?" Du Xiaofu looked at the desolate leopard and said indifferently. Chapter 1052. Brat, you're smart. However, you don't have to use words against me. Although dragons are huge, things are different now. Besides, dragons are only the leaders of the scaled beasts. I'm a walking beast, a Qilin. Whether it's the Phoenix clan or the dragons, I don't have a good impression of them. The desolation leopard raised his head slightly. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. He had heard about it from Dongli Qingqing. It was said that before the ancient era, the human clan had not yet flourished. At that time, the Beast clan had risen. The Qilin, dragons, and phoenixes reigned supreme. The Azure Dragon reigned supreme for scaled beasts, the Phoenix reigned supreme for flying beasts, and the Qilin reigned supreme for walking beasts. However, in the end, it seemed that the dragons and phoenixes teamed up to exterminate the Qilin clan. It was called the Dragon-Phoenix Calamity. Later on, after another great calamity, the human race prospered in this world. Then what does the great commander mean? Du Xiaofu probed. The Desolation Leopard had brought him here alone. Naturally, there was a reason behind it. You're the savior of Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock. I didn't hand you over to the dragons and didn't leak the news. I didn't take any benefits from the dragons either. In a way, I've returned the favor, right? Said the Desolation Leopard. Indeed. Du Xiaofu nodded. Although he felt that it was a little far-fetched, the Desolation Leopard's words made him speechless. What he said made sense. Moreover, he didn't have any other motives for saving Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy. Alright, then let's talk about things now. You came to the Desolation Cliff because I heard from Blue Fantasy that you have something to ask of me? The Desolation Leopard smiled with satisfaction and continued to speak to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu looked at the Desolation Leopard. After a while, he said, I want the Great Commander to help me find Du Tingxian. You also want to find Du Tingxian? Ha! The Desolation Leopard's eyes moved. Its deep, black-gray eyes stared at Du Xiaofu. Suddenly, it burst into laughter. Its cape fluttered as it laughed. Then, a meaningful look appeared in its eyes. Great Commander, why are you laughing? Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaofu. Du Tingxian R. Is. Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu. Du, what makes you say that, Grand Commander? Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled, and he became vigilant once more. It is normal for humans to have the same surname. However, the dragons are looking for Du Tingxian. You have caused trouble for the dragons. Now you want to find Du Tingxian. Furthermore, your father is powerful and your son is the Demon King. Isn't it obvious enough? The Desolation Leopard laughed. He was very pleased with himself. He knew that he had guessed correctly. The purple-robed young man in front of him must be the son of Du Tingxian that everyone in the Tianhuang mainland was looking for. They were a powerful human father and son. Great Commander, you have sharp eyes. Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a smile. He was secretly moved. He had not expected the Desolation Leopard to be so powerful. He had sharp eyes. Most importantly, he was very meticulous. For your father, you even dare to go against the dragons when you have just reached the martial honorable realm. You do live up to the name of the Demon King. I have never had a good impression of humans. I have to say that you have made me see you in a new light. The Desolation Leopard looked at Du Xiaofu. His deep black eyes revealed a look of admiration. If I am in trouble, my father will do the same. He will risk his life for me. Du Xiaofu also smiled. Although his drunkard father did not say much, he had always been concerned about him. Back then, in the Stone City, an expert from that clan was proof. That's right. As a father, I will not let anyone touch a single hair on my child. I am the same. If anyone dares to touch a single hair on my daughter or Scarlet Rock, the Desolation Leopard, will not let them off. I will remember the people from the ancient Fist sect. The Desolation Leopard's eyes were sharp. Then he looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. You father and son pair are to my liking. Let's make a deal. I can promise to help you find your father, Du Tingxian. What does the Great Commander want? Du Xiaofu raised his head. He had a guess in his heart. I want the golden-winged rock blood in your body. I want 2 portions. One for me and one for Blue Fantasy. The Desolation Leopard spoke with a dignified tone. The golden-winged rock is the sovereign of the beasts. The blood in its body will be of great use to me and Blue Fantasy. I will not hide it from you. My cultivation has stagnated. Perhaps the blood in your body will be able to bring me a transformation. Even if you do not agree, I will not let go of such an opportunity. You want to take it by force? Du Xiaofu smiled. The Desolation Leopard shook his head. Although Scarlet Rock is not my biological son and is only my adopted son, he is very close to me. In my heart, he is my biological son without a doubt. He has the body of the ancient crimson sky flaming ox and the golden-winged rock blood you gave him. His future will definitely surpass mine, so even if it's for Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy, I will not take your life. I only want your blood. I'll give you 2 portions of my blood. I can even give the golden-winged rock's ability to you, Blue Fantasy, and Scarlet Rock to comprehend it. It will help you obtain a fortuitous encounter and allow you to break through. Du Xiaofu growled as he stared at the Desolation Leopard. Are you serious? The Desolation Leopard's eyes changed when he heard that. If he could obtain the golden-winged Great Pang's blood and its abilities, he would be able to benefit greatly. He knew very well that there really was an extremely great chance for him to break through. Compared to the benefits that the dragons could give him, just the golden-winged rock's blood alone was many times better. Of course, not only that, but I also have a great fortuitous encounter that I can give to Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock. It's enough for Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock to look down on their peers. In my heart, Scarlet Rock is also my younger brother. Although I'm a human, I'm just as close to the beasts as the golden-winged rock's blood flows in me. Du Xiaofu stared at the Desolation Leopard and said seriously, I can even give you that great fortuitous encounter. I guarantee that even if you become a quasi-realm beast sovereign, your strength will increase greatly. Phew! The Desolation Leopard took a deep breath and stared closely at Du Xiaofu with his dark gray eyes. He said, Brat, don't try to trick me. I won't trick you. However, other than helping me find my drunkard father, I have other requests. Du Xiaofu stared straight at the Desolation Leopard with golden eyes. He did not back down and said, I also want your blood, your essence blood. If what you say is true and you can prove it to me, I can give you my essence blood. The Desolation Leopard nodded with anticipation in the depths of his eyes. Not only could he increase his strength, but Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy could also look down on their peers. Such benefits were too tempting for him to resist or refuse. After hesitating for a moment, Du Xiaofu stared at the Desolation Leopard, then gritted his teeth and said, I wonder if the commander has heard of the divine Thunderbody refinement. Boom! As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, a purple-gold 3-legged cauldron flew out from his palm. Purple-gold lightning immediately spread. This is a terrifying and domineering aura of destruction spread, causing the Desolation Leopard's dark gray eyes to suddenly tremble violently. An aura trembled from his body, causing the cloak on his back to flutter. The bright moon hung high in the sky. Tonight, the moon was bright and the stars were dim. On a rock in a valley, the moonlight shrouded the area. Under the hazy moonlight, a middle-aged man leaned against the rock wall behind the rock. He held a wine jug in his hand and his long black hair was somewhat messy. However, at this moment, the middle-aged man's face that was revealed under his messy long hair was extremely resolute. His slender eyebrows slanted to his temples. Coupled with the beard that covered his face, he seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life. However, his thick and long eyelashes softened his originally firm and powerful facial features. It could be said that this face was enough to make all the women in the world take a few more glances. The middle-aged man gazed at the bright moon. His slightly furrowed brows seemed to hide many deep thoughts. After which, he took a sip of wine and softly muttered, Demon King Du Xiaofu, you little bastard. Can't you keep a low profile? Dragons are not to be trifled with. Uncle Tingxian, shouldn't we set off? We can't stay here for long. There are too many people looking for us now. A clear and melodious voice sounded out, and a woman walked over with light steps. Her long skirt outlined a graceful and moving arc, and she revealed an elegant yet slightly charming aura. Under the cover of the moonlight, her eyes seemed to be suffused with a few waves of mist, and her face was enough to cause the downfall of countries and cities like an immortal. Zijin, how's your recovery? The middle-aged man raised his head and looked at the woman with a smile. The woman sat down beside the middle-aged man and intimately held his arm. She also took the wine bottle and put it back in. She raised her head and blinked her bright black eyes. She said, I've already recovered. With Uncle Tingshuan's help, I shouldn't be too far away from that step. However, you should drink less wine. You little girl. The middle-aged man smiled. He looked at the woman in front of him and suddenly said, Xiaofu is only 2 or 3 years younger than you, right? Yes, I'm older. The woman smiled. His sister, Xiaojing, is the same as Xiaofu. She's also a big girl now. She'll definitely be as beautiful as her mother. The middle-aged man smiled. The woman's red lips parted slightly. Her eyes revealed a smile. She said, Uncle Tingxian, are you praising me? I'm not praising you. You're extremely talented, and you've also obtained a great opportunity. Right now, you're already capable of competing with the outstanding people of your generation in this world. Most importantly, your nature is pure and kind. If you still fancy that little bastard, I'll make the decision to talk to your father when we return and let the two of you get married. How about it? The middle-aged man smiled. Chapter 1053. Uncle Tingxian, you're making fun of me again. I'm not worthy of him. He's the Demon King now, someone who can even kill the Saber King Shueqianzhan. A blush crept up the woman's delicate face. Her fairy-like face was delicate and alluring. Under the hazy moonlight, she looked even more beautiful. You're joking. If that brat can marry you, I'll be satisfied. The middle-aged man raised his eyes and smiled. His lips were very thin, and his smile was very pure and happy. Suddenly, his expression changed and he said, Someone's coming. As his voice fell, the middle-aged man's expression and temperament suddenly changed. He looked drunk as he stood up. His clothes were disheveled, and his head was slightly lowered. His long black hair was scattered, covering most of his face and forehead. He looked exactly like a drunkard. The woman also lowered her head and supported the middle-aged man. The two of them slowly walked forward. Swoosh, swoosh. After a while, many figures swept past behind them. Their auras swept past the two of them, and then they hurriedly left. Thunder Rolling Mountain should be not far ahead. We should also go and join in the fun. The middle-aged man said. The smell of alcohol filled the air, but his voice was calm, and there was a hint of strength in it. Under his messy hair, there was a sharp fluctuation in his eyes. In the misty space, there was a terrifying fluctuation of aura, and there was also a tragic scream. In the space, Du Xiaofu was rolling on the ground. The blue runes on his body soared into the sky. The mysterious runes condensed into the shadow of a desolation panther, covering Du Xiaofu's body. The surging aura was like a stormy sea. There was a terrifying energy attacking Du Xiaofu's body. That majestic and violent energy attacked Du Xiaofu's organs, bones, muscles, and cells. It was like 10,000 beasts were galloping in his body, wanting to destroy Du Xiaofu's body completely. The violent energy shockwave wanted to tear Du Xiaofu's body to shreds. And this was only Du Xiaofu. If it was anyone else, they would have already been turned into pieces. Du Xiaofu screamed miserably. Pain, excruciating pain. It was as if his body was being torn apart by 1,000 blades, as if a sledgehammer was continuously striking his body from the inside out. Du Xiaofu suffered unspeakably from the intense pain, as if his body was about to explode. All of this was because Du Xiaofu had consumed the blood essence of the Desolation Panther, a half-domain level Desolation Panther. The higher the level of the demonic beast, the better its essence blood would be for cleansing one's bones. This made Du Xiaofu unable to resist his desire for strength. Knowing that the half-domain Desolation Sky Leopard's essence blood contained vast amounts of energy, he did not hesitate to try. Du Xiaofu reached an agreement with the Desolation Leopard. He would use his essence blood and the Divine Lightning Cauldron to refine his body in exchange for the Desolation Leopard's essence blood and a chance to find his alcoholic father. Using the violent energy contained in the Desolation Leopard's essence blood to cleanse one's bones was also what Du Xiaofu wanted. In order to exchange for the Desolation Leopard's essence blood, Du Xiaofu had even exposed the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron. If it was purely for the Desolation Leopard's essence blood, Du Xiaofu would not have exposed the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron. Once the news was leaked, All the experts in Tianhuang mainland who had originally come for the Divine Lightning Cauldron would eventually come for his Divine Lightning Cauldron. Exposing the Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron also stemmed from Du Xiaofu's intuition, which allowed him to have some trust in the Desolation Leopard. More importantly, even if the Desolation Leopard was the first to attempt to snatch it, Du Xiaofu would still be able to escape. The Purple Thunder Profound Cauldron was definitely not something that could be easily obtained. Under the violent energy, Du Xiaofu rolled all over the ground. His body was enveloped by the blue Desolation Leopard's shadow, and his face was already flushed red. Du Xiaofu clenched his teeth and endured, but now was not the time to scream. The more violent the energy contained in the essence blood of a demonic beast, the better the effect. After more than 10 hours, Du Xiaofu, who was rolling all over the ground, finally managed to get up. He formed a seal with his hands and circulated the golden rock technique. He used his profound qi to guide the violent essence blood of the Desolation Leopard in his body to cleanse his bones. Using his profound qi to guide the essence blood to cleanse his bones, the intense pain in his body caused Du Xiaofu to break out in a cold sweat. Light gradually spread out from within his body. The dazzling golden light was accompanied by the flickering of talismans and mysterious runes, shining brightly. Roar! There were also blue runes that constantly changed. In the end, they turned into the shadow of a Desolation Leopard, faintly enveloping Du Xiaofu. It was ferocious and ferocious, as if it wanted to tear Du Xiaofu into pieces. The terrifying Desolate Sky Leopard's blood essence was simply too vast and surging. Under the circulation of the golden-winged Great Rock's technique, other than cleansing his marrow, it also turned into dense Xian Qi that surged into Du Xiaofu's divine watchtower. And all of this was limited to Du Xiaofu. If it were anyone else, it would be a disaster. Roar! In the depths of the mountains and forests of the Tianhuang mainland, the roars of beasts were incessant. There were savage beasts of the Tianhuang mainland everywhere. Waves of fiendish aura spread out, causing people to be wary. Thunder Rolling Mountain was a vast and enormous mountain range. It was rumored that the Divine Thunder Mansion would eventually appear in Thunder Rolling Mountain. Someone had seen lightning flashing across the sky in the vicinity of Thunder Rolling Mountain. Not long after, countless people surged towards the vicinity of Thunder Rolling Mountain. Everyone was looking for the Divine Thunder Mansion. It is said that there are countless treasures in the Divine Thunder Mansion. There are also treasures, divine weapons, and supreme techniques. The inheritance of the Jinlei Tensei is in the Divine Thunder Mansion. Whoever is fated to obtain it will be able to become a peerless expert. There are more and more experts coming recently. There are even a few half-domain realm experts. I wonder if there are any martial domain realm experts coming. If such experts come, I'm afraid we won't have any hope of obtaining the treasures. That's not necessarily true. Treasures have always been obtained by those who are fated. Moreover, it is said that the younger generation has the greatest hope of obtaining the inheritance of the Jinlei Tensei. The stronger one is, the higher the chance of obtaining it. Those top experts are only here to escort the disciples of the Mountain Gate to obtain it. There were people everywhere in the Tianhuang mainland talking about it. From time to time, there would be disputes. The disputes between the human race and the beast race were even more intense, attracting more and more people to gather. The appearance of the Divine Thunder Mansion and the possibility of the inheritance of the Jinlei Tensei stirred up a storm. Countless experts surged into the Tianhuang mainland, but the top experts had a tacit understanding with each other. They did not make a move or even interfere. If those top experts were to make a move, it would probably be enough to destroy the entire Tianhuang mainland. By then, the entire Tianhuang mainland, or even the real Kyushu, would not be at peace. It would be enough to cause heavy losses to all parties. Therefore, the true top experts would not make a move because they had scruples. Everything would be left to the younger generation to settle. Anyway, only the younger generation had the greatest hope of obtaining the inheritance of the Jinlei Tensei. Whoever was fated to obtain the greatest opportunity would have the greatest opportunity. The mighty group of people headed towards Thunder Rolling Mountain. Countless people flooded into Thunder Rolling Mountain. Roar! All of a sudden, the roars of beasts sounded like thunder in a canyon. A dense wave of beasts surged down and charged towards a group of people. The beast tide surged over. Even though they were still a distance away, there was an extremely ferocious aura pressing down on the vast sky. Countless mysterious symbols flickered as numerous enormous bodies charged over from the sky and on the ground, seemingly blotting out the sun. It's a wave of beasts. The crowd panicked instantly. The elderly and middle-aged men immediately told the younger generation disciples to run first. Even the experts had to retreat when the terrifying wave of beasts gathered together. Roar! The wave of beasts surged and roared thunderously. Ferocious auras erupted from their bodies as they spat out dazzling runes from their mouths. There were tens of thousands of them, and everywhere they passed, the ground shook as if they were about to be destroyed. Damn it! Why are these beasts getting more and more ferocious recently? Countless experts made a move. Dazzling runes intertwined and their auras erupted. They blocked the wave of beasts, causing the entire area to rumble. Roar! Another thunderous roar came from afar as an even larger wave of beasts surged over. Countless huge beasts rushed over, crushing the ground and shaking the mountains. Their ferocious auras caused the wind to blow and the clouds to surge. Run quickly. The wave of beasts is too huge. An elderly man shouted and protected the disciples of the sect as they fled quickly. However, many of them were swept up in the wave of beasts. They let out miserable cries and died tragically in the end. In a dark forest, rays of light filled the air as if a treasure had appeared. Many figures from a group of forces entered. Their auras were fierce and vigorous. A few of them had reached the revered realm, and many of them were martial emperors. There's a heavenly treasure. Be careful. Someone spoke. His voice could not hide his excitement and happiness. Rumble. Suddenly, the surrounding space trembled. The earth shook and the mountains shook. Dazzling ancient runes rose from the night sky, revealing a fierce killing intent. The mysterious ancient runes flickered and a murderous aura filled the sky. This was an ancient formation that wanted to kill everything. Oh no, that's an ancient formation. We've been trapped. A spiritual talisman master shouted with a serious expression. Retreat quickly. Think of a way to break the formation. An expert shouted. Endless runes erupted from the revered realm experts. Their bodies shone brightly, and their auras burned like raging flames to protect the younger generation. However, the ancient formation was too terrifying. Even the revered realm experts were killed immediately. Miserable cries could be heard. Many figures were directly destroyed in fear as they were killed by the ancient formation. In the night sky, in the dark valley, more than 100 figures walked past. In the lead was a white-robed old man with white hair and a white beard. He carried an ancient sword on his back. As the night breeze blew, his hair danced in the wind. He looked like a super expert. Chapter 1054. The old man was Gu Qingyang of the Ancient Heaven Sect. He was escorting the younger disciples of the Ancient Heaven Sect to Thunder Rolling Mountain. Be careful, I can feel the killing intent. Suddenly, Gu Qingyang stopped in his tracks. His clear eyes focused on his ruddy face as he scanned his surroundings with his mind. Crackle! In the next instant, bolts of lightning rippled in the night sky. Then, bolts of lightning descended from the sky. The might of the thunder filled the air with a destructive aura. Not good, everyone be careful. Gu Qingyang shouted. Jian Santong, Yu Wanli, and all the other honorable realm powerhouses acted. Their auras surged as runes erupted to resist the lightning. Rumble, however, the lightning that covered the skies suddenly descended and raised a large area of the mountain to the ground. The ground cracked, and a few people in the Ancient Heaven Sect screamed as their bodies exploded under the lightning. Even more disciples of the Ancient Heaven Sect were covered in a purple-gold color as they absorbed the terrifying lightning into their bodies. Although some of the weaker ones were injured and vomited blood, it was not a big deal because they had all been tempered by the divine lightning. The terrifying lightning descended, but it only lasted for a moment. Then it disappeared. It came quickly and disappeared quickly. We're not far from Thunder Rolling Mountain, and it's getting more and more dangerous. Will the Divine Lightning Mansion really appear at Thunder Rolling Mountain? Gu Qingyang's eyes focused as he said to the disciples of the ancient heaven sect behind him, "Be on your guard. Everyone be careful." Early in the morning, the sky had just broken. There were a few scattered stars in the light blue sky. The light of dawn lifted the veil of night and spat out the brilliant morning glow, causing the wild land to flicker with luster. A green halo lingered around the mountains, and the air was filled with a thin veil of mist. Then, golden sunlight covered the land. Dongli Qingqing stood on the peak of the mountain. Her tall and graceful figure glowed in the morning glow. Her fairy-like face was carved with beautiful facial features. Her clear eyes glowed with a green light, but they didn't lose their nobility. She gave off a feeling of vitality. "Du Xiaoyao, stop right there. That's my spiritual medicine." Not far away, Du Xiaoqing and Du Xiaoyao were chasing each other. The little tiger was sitting cross-legged not far away. Its dark eyes were a little dazed. After a long while, it revealed a silly smile. "Little tiger, what are you thinking about?" Du Xiaoqing was tired of chasing Du Xiaoyao, so she went to Little Tiger and asked curiously. "No, I'm not thinking about anything." The little tiger regained its senses and stood up immediately. A flicker of light flashed across its dark eyes. "Hurry up and say it." "You never lie." Du Xiaoqing curled her lips and saw the little tiger clearly at a glance. She had a small and delicate nose, a cherry-like mouth that was as thin as wings, and a smile that rippled on her delicate and flawless face. Her ethereal eyes revealed a hint of charm that was captivating, holy, and seductive. The little tiger hesitated. Its face blushed a little as it said to Du Xiaoqing, "I'm wondering if Miss Blue Fantasy's injuries have healed." "Little tiger, you like Miss Blue Fantasy?" Du Xiaoqing looked at Little Tiger and patted Little Tiger's shoulder happily. "Anyway, I'm supporting you. Do you need my help?" "Xiaoqing, I don't like Miss Blue Fantasy." "I don't." Little Tiger hurriedly shook its head, its face blushing. "So Little Tiger likes Miss Blue Fantasy." Dongli Qingqing stepped forward and walked over with light steps. Her slender body was leaning forward, and her eyes were misty and watery. "Qingqing, I'd better go and see if third young master has come out of seclusion. He has been in the ancient desolate space for almost a month." Seeing Dongli Qingqing and Du Xiaoqing teasing each other, Little Tiger hurriedly retreated. "This Little Tiger, I didn't expect you to be so thin-skinned." Dongli Qingqing's lips curled into a smile. "Sister Qingqing, then do you like my brother? I feel that the way he looks at you is different." Du Xiaoqing pouted and asked Dongli Qingqing seriously. "Little girl, what are you talking about?" Dongli Qingqing glared at Du Xiaoqing, but a blush crept up her delicate face. "Hee." Du Xiaoqing chuckled and continued to chase after Du Xiaoyao. Looking at Du Xiaoqing's back view, Dongli Qingqing stood there. Her body was like jade, and her every move was elegant. After a while, she pursed her lips and murmured, "Why should I implicate him? It's already fate that we can meet again." As her voice fell, a slight breeze blew over. Her long ponytail swayed gently in the wind, moving one's soul. In the misty space, the blue desolate sky leopard's shadow coiled around Du Xiaofu's body. A terrifying and violent aura distorted the void. That violent aura caused Du Xiaofu's body to tremble. Fortunately, Du Xiaofu's physical body had been tempered to such an extent that it could already be considered abnormal. Under the impact of this violent and terrifying energy, under the extremely tragic and heart-wrenching pain, Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth and resisted in the end. At this moment, if one looked carefully, one could see that within Du Xiaofu's body, there were strands of black substance that occasionally seeped out. They were smaller than strands of hair and were difficult to detect. Those were the impurities within Du Xiaofu's body. Under the purple gold Xian balm and the many times of bone and marrow cleansing, as well as the refinement of the golden feather, the impurities within Du Xiaofu's body had long been expelled, making his body perfect. However, at this moment, under the half-domain level desolate sky leopard's bone and marrow cleansing, there were still strands of impurities that were expelled. In the end, They were destroyed by the violent energy and turned into nothingness. As time passed, the violent, desolate sky leopard's blood essence turned into pure Xian Qi that surged into the god's watchtower. It was absorbed by Du Xiaofu, causing his cultivation aura to continue to increase. This made Du Xiaofu rejoice. As expected of the half-domain level desolate sky leopard's blood essence. Apart from the bone and marrow cleansing, he could also obtain many substantial benefits. The enormous amount of energy could even allow him to show signs of breaking through again. It was only a matter of time. The desolate sky leopard's blood essence also contained some of the desolate sky leopard's abilities. Du Xiaofu was also comprehending them. As the Xian Qi within the god's watchtower gradually gathered to an extremely full state, pure Xian Qi continued to surge in. It formed a whirlpool in the god's watchtower, and its speed became faster and faster. In the end, it was as if a hurricane had surged out of his body, causing the sound of wind and thunder to resound within Du Xiaofu's god's watchtower. This kind of turbulence within the god's watchtower did not cause Du Xiaofu any discomfort. Instead, it was extremely comfortable. However, when all the Xian Qi within the god's watchtower and even the Xian Qi within the meridians within his body had gathered within the god's watchtower vortex, the Xian Qi vortex had also surged to its most violent state. Du Xiaofu could not help but let out a muffled groan from his throat. Bang! Following that, the god's watchtower seemed to have been opened up. In the end, the vortex dissipated, and all the Xian Qi within the vortex poured out and spread throughout his body. It spread to his limbs, bones, and muscles, causing Du Xiaofu's entire body to feel indescribably comfortable. The blue runes and golden light around Du Xiaofu's body also slowly dissipated. After a long while, his body, which was sitting cross-legged, trembled slightly. His eyelashes moved slightly, and his eyelids trembled slightly before he slowly opened his eyes. Chi! When Du Xiaofu opened his eyes, they were accompanied by flashes of lightning. A domineering aura that was many times stronger than before swept out from Du Xiaofu's body, causing the surrounding misty space to vibrate and create huge waves in space. The powerful and domineering aura slowly withdrew after a moment. In the end, it all surged into Du Xiaofu's body, and the lightning and golden light in his eyes also slowly withdrew. Feeling the aura within his body, Du Xiaofu smiled. Then he stood up vigorously. With a shake of his purple robe, the purple thunder profound cauldron appeared. Whoosh whoosh, 5 figures jumped out from the purple thunder profound cauldron. They were the desolate sky leopard, scarlet rock, blue fantasy, Yan Qi, and the Qi Mang couple. Originally, Yan Qi and the Qi Mang couple were still in the beast realm and were unable to take human form. However, at this moment, one of them had the appearance of a middle-aged man, while the other was a middle-aged woman. Although they were not beautiful, they were extremely simple and clean, and the aura on their bodies was extremely vigorous. After they had obtained the purple gold profound thunderbody refinement, they had directly broken through to the martial royal realm. At this moment, although Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy had not broken through to the honorable realm, from the aura on their bodies, it seemed that they were not far away from breaking through to the honorable realm. Sacred Thunderbody Refinement, as expected of Sacred Thunderbody Refinement. The desolate sky leopard laughed loudly, and his eyes were filled with shock and joy. He knew that the Sacred Thunderbody Refinement was very beneficial to him. When he looked at Du Xiaofu and felt that the aura on Du Xiaofu's body was increasing, he was surprised and said, "Kid, you have broken through to the mysterious honorable realm." Chapter 1055. Because of the Grand Commander's blood essence, I had a slight breakthrough. Du Xiaofu said with a smile. You broke through really quickly. That's insane. The Desolation Leopard knew very well how difficult it was to break through to the next level after reaching the Venerable Realm. After a moment of shock, he looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Speaking of which, I've benefited a lot from you this time. I, the Desolation Leopard, owe you a favor." "Then I won't stand on ceremony with this favor. Who knows, I might need the Grand Commander's help in the future." Du Xiaofu smiled. "Ah, good boy. You really don't stand on ceremony." The Desolation Leopard laughed, then said to Du Xiaofu seriously, Don't worry. Vi, the Desolation Leopard, ask for it. If there's anything in the future, as long as I can do it, I won't refuse. Then I'll thank the Grand Commander first. Du Xiaofu cupped his fists and said, Don't be angry. Now that I've finished the Divine Thunder Body refinement, I'll be in seclusion for a while. Rumor has it that signs of the Divine Thunder Mansion have appeared at Thunder Rolling Mountain. I'm afraid I won't be able to rush to Thunder Rolling Mountain in a short period of time. Rumor has it that your father Du Tingxian has obtained something related to the Divine Thunder Mansion. I'm afraid he'll also go to Thunder Rolling Mountain. You can try your luck there first. How about you help bring Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock along? Let them search for opportunities and find news about your father Du Tingxian. Actually, the Desolation Cliff has been keeping an eye on it. If there's any other news, Blue Fantasy will be the first to know. It won't affect your business. The Desolation Leopard said to Du Xiaofu. Let Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock follow me to Thunder Rolling Mountain? Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. He looked at the Desolation Leopard and said, I'm in trouble. The dragons are also looking for me. If Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy follow me, I'm afraid it won't be good for them. If they're comfortable, there's no need to talk about opportunities. The Desolation Leopard looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. Du Xiaofu, you're afraid of those troubles? I'm also willing to follow you to search for opportunities and train myself, Lan Huan said. She also wanted to follow the young man before her to search for opportunities. Okay, but just call me by my name Du Xiaofu and Rox knew it. I also want to follow Big Brother. Qi Peng also intimately pulled Du Xiaofu and said. Du Xiaofu nodded and left the Purple Lightning Profound Cauldron with the others. I she. Do his re. Of course. Me. Do purple. Purple's knit purple's purple. Do, moo, purple. N, mysterious martial saint. I still can't catch up to you. Du Xiaofu sighed. The martial honorable realm was mysterious. It seemed that it was not enough to be compared with those of the same generation in the powerful clans and forces. You've already broken through fast enough. Moreover, in terms of battle prowess, you've far surpassed those of the same level. Dongli Qingqing smiled seductively. She looked at Du Xiaofu and said, It's not a good thing to break through too fast. Your body is strong. You can continue to strengthen it and stabilize your foundation. When the time comes, even if you encounter a great opportunity that can make your cultivation advance by leaps and bounds, you won't have to worry about any side effects. Du Xiaofu nodded with a smile. His recent breakthroughs were not slow. However, back when he was in the Pulse Spirit realm and Pulse Movement realm, his foundation was already very solid. Later on, he had been paying attention to his foundation, and his fleshly body had been forged to become even stronger. Thus, there were side effects of breaking through too quickly. At the very least, with his current cultivation level, the possible side effects would not appear on him. I wonder when I can become a Nirvana Martial Honorable. Du Xiaofu felt the aura in his body and muttered to himself. At this moment, he was a mysterious Martial Honorable. He did not know how much stronger he was compared to when he first ascended. If he became a Nirvana Martial Honorable, he would naturally be even more powerful. Swoosh, swoosh. Not long after, on the Tianhuang Cliff, several figures swept across the sky and instantly disappeared in midair. On the Tianhuang Cliff, on a towering mountain peak, Jin Gu gloomily looked at the several figures in the distance. Father, are we just going to let those two humans go? Jin Gu gloomily looked at the sky in the distance. Within his well-built body, the originally vigorous and ferocious aura was extremely weak. His face was still pale, and he was far from fully recovered from his injuries. His eyes were filled with hatred, especially when he saw that Blue Fantasy had actually left with those humans. His injuries were too severe, and he was unable to follow. These days, the Great Commander and that young man have been very abnormal. Blue Fantasy also followed that human to Thunder Rolling Mountain. This is too abnormal. Something must have happened between them. Jin Gu frowned. His figure was slightly short, but he was extremely well built. His eyes were filled with a chilling radiance. Father, are you worried about the Great Commander? According to our plan, you should propose marriage to the great commander and let me marry Blue Fantasy. Then, in the future, won't this Tianhuang cliff still belong to us? Jin Gu said in a deep voice. Do you think it's that easy? From what I know, Blue Fantasy is not interested in you at all. Jin Gu's golden hair draped over his shoulders. He glanced at Jin Gu, shook his yellow robe, and said in a deep voice, I've found a healing treasure, golden underworld fruit, for you. After you consume it, you will be able to recover quickly. You might even obtain great benefits. It's not impossible for you to break through another layer. At that time, you might have a chance in front of Blue Fantasy. As long as you can break through again, I will propose marriage again. The great commander will have nothing to say. Golden underworld fruit. Father, rumor has it that it's an item from the sea. Where did you get such a treasure? Jin Gu was wild with joy. The golden underworld fruit was an absolute treasure of the beast race. It was difficult to find one, and it could only be found in the sea. I have contact with the dragons. There are some things that the great commander doesn't want to do. If he doesn't want to take the benefits, then it doesn't matter if I take it. In any case, it's beneficial to us. We just have to casually tell them some news. The dragons will definitely go to Qingming and Xianku. If they get involved with the dragons, then our Tianhuang cliff will be in danger. The great commander doesn't care, but I can't care, Jin Gu said in a deep voice. I have to recover as soon as possible and then head to Thunder Rolling Mountain. If I can obtain the inheritance of the Divine Thunder Manor, then not only will this Tianhuang continent be mine, even the outside world will be mine. Jin Gu's gloomy eyes were filled with anticipation. At that time, Blue Fantasy would definitely not be able to escape from his grasp and would definitely submit to him. Thinking of that day, a perverted smile flashed across Jin Gu's eyes. It was as if he could already foresee that beautiful body in front of him, allowing him to ravage it. Lin, don't underestimate this Tianhuang continent. This place is called the Savage Land by the humans. It is also filled with danger. Most of the places have been born here for generations, but we don't dare to set foot in them. It is said that many legends are buried here, but it has been a long time. There was also a rumor that the reason why the humans from the outside world haven't set foot in this savage land is because there are still the most terrifying experts on this Tianhuang continent. They are so powerful that even the top experts in the world have to be wary of them, Jin Gu said to Jin Lin seriously. Jin Gu's expression darkened. After a while, he asked Jin Gu, Father, why do the humans call Tianhuang continent the savage land? After a moment of silence, Jin Gu said to Jin Lin, the rumor has been around for a long time, and we don't know if it's true or not. Do you know why the strongest beasts in this world are still the scaled beasts and the flying beasts, while only the tiger race can somewhat contend with us, but if we really want to compare, we are still inferior to the dragons and phoenixes? Jin Lin shook his head. He did not know. Jin Gu continued. In ancient times, the dragons and phoenixes joined forces and defeated the Qilin race. From then on, the Qilin race disappeared without a trace, never appearing for countless years. There are rumors that the Qilin race has long been exterminated. The demonic beasts on Tianhuang continent now are all followers of the Qilin race. Later on, some of the defeated troops fled to Tianhuang continent and escaped with the protection of a supreme expert. That expert also said that once they left Tianhuang continent, he would not protect them. Later on, the defeated troops that followed the Qilin race reproduced here. Out of fear of the dragons, the phoenixes exterminated them and never left. They also left behind some ancestral teachings that they were not allowed to leave Tianhuang continent for generations. Later on, the dragons and phoenixes suffered great losses and there was a great calamity. Later on, the human race prospered and was at odds with the beast race. However, the human race never came to Tianhuang continent. Over time, there were very few people in Tianhuang mainland and all the demon beasts got used to staying in Tianhuang mainland. None of them ventured out and this place became a barren land. The blood in our bodies is from the ancient era and we are also known as savage beasts. I see. Jin Lin's eyes flickered with a fierce glint as he said softly, If those puny humans can let me obtain the information from the Divine Thunder Manor, I'll definitely step out of Tianhuang continent and sweep through Kyushu. Even the dragons and phoenixes won't have to fear me. Roar! In the pitch-black darkness, a gigantic black tiger with a golden glow flapped its wings. It was ferocious and terrifying as black runes soared into the sky. Its aura was extremely strong and oppressive. Wherever it passed, both the beast race and the human race would avoid it and not dare to look for trouble. There were several figures sitting on the gigantic black tiger. They were Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing. Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, Blue Fantasy, and Scarlet Rock. There were many savage beasts along the way as they headed for Thunder Rumble Mountain. However, not all of them listened to Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy. Chapter 1056. In order to reduce the trouble, Du Xiaofu had the little tiger transform into its original form and release its aura to intimidate the savage beasts. It really did save a lot of trouble. What a terrifying black tiger. I'm afraid it's a terrifying race among the tigers. A person who can have such a mount must have a powerful background. Some people were discussing. A person who had such a huge tiger as a mount was naturally not an ordinary person. It was better not to provoke them. What a powerful aura. Blue Fantasy felt the little tiger's aura and was secretly shocked. She just realized that the little tiger's aura had reached such a powerful level. If I consume the golden winged rock's blood, will I also have such an aura? Blue Fantasy muttered to herself. She also had the golden winged rock's blood and could even take the opportunity to break through. However, breaking through from the peak of the Beast Emperor realm to the Beast Venerable realm was a major realm. She didn't know when she could succeed. The signs of the Divine Thunder Mansion's appearance seemed to be getting more and more obvious in Thunder Rolling Mountain. Therefore, Blue Fantasy decided to consume the golden winged rock's blood later and look for opportunities first. Du Xiaofu rode on the little tiger. It was majestic and awe-inspiring along the way. It was not much weaker than the chariots of the dragons, Dragon 9, and the phoenixes. However, there were also many things that were delayed in this savage land, especially Du Xiaoyao. Along the way, she had discovered many spiritual medicines and heavenly treasures. With Du Xiaoyao's talent, she had been reaping benefits along the way. Blue Fantasy was secretly shocked. Therefore, in the past 2 days, the little tiger didn't travel too far even with its speed. At dusk, the sun shrouded the sky. A huge mountain range and canyon was majestic. It was the only way to pass through this area. At this moment, there were many powerful auras deliberately concealed on the cliff. A group of creatures stood there, waiting for something. Especially the few young men in the lead. They were all heaven-sent martial artists and looked extremely extraordinary. This was especially the case for a young man in yellow-patterned battle clothes. His eyes were like that of a tiger watching its prey, revealing a vicious glint. The creatures behind him were in awe of him, as if they had all submitted to him. Beside the yellow-patterned battle suit, there was a young man in luxurious clothes embroidered with many nebula patterns. His face was handsome and well-defined, and his hair seemed to be covered with scales. His eyes were sharp. The aura of the finely dressed young man fluctuated, causing a chill to permeate the space. From his aura, one could tell that he had not submitted to the leading young man, but there was fear in his eyes. If Du Xiaofu was here at this moment, he would definitely be able to recognize that this young man in luxurious clothes was the Heaven Wasteland's star-swallowing python that had escaped from his hands back then. He's here. The young man raised his head and said indifferently. It was unknown whether he was looking at the sunset or the sky. He is very strong and his physical body is even stronger. The Heaven Wasteland's star-devouring python said. There was still some lingering fear in its eyes. If it had not fled quickly back then, it probably would have ended up like the cyan-headed serpent. No matter how strong your physical body is, can it be stronger than mine? You are getting weaker. The young man in battle clothes glanced at the Heaven Wasteland's star-devouring python and said, "He is very strong. That is why I have to rush over and search for him for so long. Such a battle servant is hard to find. I hope that he will not disappoint me." Flap, flap. A few breaths later, a large pitch-black creature flapped its wings and flew over from the light in front. Golden light shot out, and a couple of figures could be vaguely seen within it. A tiger tribe. Its aura is actually so rich. The eyes of the yellow-patterned battle-suit young man trembled when he sensed the aura of the large pitch-black creature. Ferocity and greed flashed across his eyes as he said, "It is already worthy for me to come. I feel that the black tiger that has been reduced to a mount will definitely be beneficial to me." Flap, flap. The large pitch-black tiger that was emitting golden light hovered in the air. It looked down at the sky with hostility and released a shockingly overbearing pressure. "Ha, heaven wasteland star-swallowing python. So it is you. You have delivered yourself to me." A young man in purple robes laughed loudly from the back of the large pitch-black tiger. His purple robes fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were filled with excitement, as if he had seen his own treasure. "Du Xiaofu, there will naturally be someone who will deal with you today. Just you wait." The heaven wasteland star-swallowing python roared. Its aura was fierce, and a dazzling and mysterious rune spread across its body. However, it could not hide the lingering fear in the depths of its eyes as it faced the young man in purple robes. "Oh my, you even brought a helper." Du Xiaofu's figure shot out and floated in front of the little tiger. His gaze swept across the group of creatures, and in the end, it landed on the young man in patterned battle clothes. He said, "You don't seem weak. Are you that Du Xiaofu? I've heard that you're very strong. Become my battle servant. I'll make you stronger and give you unimaginable benefits. I'll also take that mount of yours." The young man in patterned battle clothes spoke. His voice shook the sky, causing the entire canyon to tremble. "Otherwise, I will tear you to pieces and destroy your soul. Du Xiaofu, the demon king Du Xiaofu." Has he appeared again? Immediately, figures passing by in the distance stopped when they heard the roar and came over in search of the source of the sound. What a powerful aura. It is much more powerful than Jin Lin. He must have come from a terrifying existence. Blue Fantasy, who was on the little tiger's back, moved her eyes. She could feel the aura of the young man in battle clothes. Regardless of whether it was the aura of his bloodline or the aura of his cultivation, it was imperceptibly powerful to the point that she could not help but tremble a little. In the air, Du Xiaofu's expression became somewhat ugly. This was the first monstrous beast that had actually wanted him to become a battle servant. "It seems that the monstrous beast has taken a liking to you. However, he should be stronger than the desolate star-swallowing python. Do you want me to take care of him?" Dongli Qingqing's figure swept across the sky and arrived beside Du Xiaofu. Her hair fluttered slightly, making her look like a celestial being in the sky. However, at this moment, Dongli Qingqing's eyes were slightly different. She felt that if she were to take care of the young man in battle clothes, it would be a little troublesome and even a little strenuous. "I will personally take care of him. This is the first monstrous beast that has wanted to take me as a battle servant. I cannot forgive him. Otherwise, there will be a shadow in my heart that will affect my state of mind." Du Xiaofu said and took a breath. He had actually been targeted by a monstrous beast. Then, he shook his purple robe and pointed at the young man in battle clothes from afar. He shouted loudly, "Monstrous beast, I will drink your blood." His voice was overbearing and terrifying. Du Xiaofu was indeed somewhat unable to forgive the young man in battle clothes. Hearing this, the young man in battle clothes was stunned. Then he sneered and said, "You do have a temper. I hope your strength surprises me as much as your temper. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to become my battle servant." Boom. As he spoke, the young man in battle clothes had already made his move. His figure stomped on the rocky ground, and yellow runes burst out from the soles of his feet. He soared into the sky like a cannon, and his hand clawed directly at Du Xiaofu. He wanted to take care of that human brat in one move and show his might. Under this claw, the yellow light distorted the void and scattered mysterious runes. There were even some pitch-black lines that spread out in the surroundings. It was as if the space was about to be torn apart. "Shayang Seal, go down." Du Xiaofu's body swooped down. Instead of retreating, he advanced. like a golden lightning bolt, he waved his hand and blasted a palm directly at the young man in battle clothes. For some reason, the surrounding space began to tremble violently. When the palm and claw suddenly collided, a frightening golden light surged out from the palm. The light was gorgeous, appearing just like a bright golden color. A powerful energy pressure spread from it, causing the entire space to tremble intensely. Boom! Then, the golden light burst out, covering half the sky. The aura was incomparably domineering. The energy collided like thunder, and terrifying runes scattered and spread out. Many mountains below were directly cracked by the impact. Boom! The body of the young man in battle robes fell from the sky like a meteor. Under the shocked gazes of his followers, he slammed heavily into the huge mountain range of the canyon, causing the surrounding mountains to shake and rocks to fall. Ka-ka! Large cracks climbed all over the mountain. The young man in battle clothes' palm, which had just clawed out, was bleeding. At this moment, the young man in battle clothes' fierce eyes became slightly solemn after the shock. A yellow light burst out, and the young man in battle clothes' aura caused the mountain to crack even more. Large amounts of rocks collapsed and turned into a huge body that rushed out and floated in the air. The young man in battle clothes' body was hundreds of feet large, like a mountain peak. His body was densely covered with yellow stripes, and his entire body was flowing with light, as if he was made of gold. This was a terrifyingly ferocious giant tiger that emitted resplendent talisman runes. Its terrifying aura surged, and the tiger's roar shook one's soul. Its eyes were like that of a tiger staring at its prey, causing one's hair to stand on end. The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger. Apart from the white tiger and the dark sky tiger, it's a terrifying species that ranks in the top 3 in the tiger tribe. It's definitely at the top of the heavenly beast list. It comes directly from the bloodline of the ancient true tiger and is close to the white tiger. No wonder it's so extraordinary. Dongli Qingqing stood in the air, and there was some surprise in her eyes. The little tiger looked at the huge tiger body, and its pitch-black eyes trembled. It's really strong. It's only a little injured. Du Xiaofu looked at the huge creature that appeared in front of him and was very surprised. Under the Shaoyang seal, he wanted to finish it off in one move, but he didn't expect that the beast would only suffer a little injury. However, the taste should be pretty good. Then, there was no fear in Du Xiaofu's eyes. Instead, it was as if he had encountered a treasure. He licked his lips and his eyes became excited. "I'll never let you go." The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger had suffered a loss in one move. It had never been in such a sorry state before. With a resounding roar, its gigantic body immediately rushed towards Du Xiaofu. A terrifying aura erupted from its body as its entire body glowed. Swish! The huge tiger claws swept out, and the tiger pounced on its prey, causing the void to tremble. Its aura whistled through the sky. Chapter 1057. I'm going to eat you too. Du Xiaofu roared. At the same time, he quickly formed hand seals and a powerful aura surged like a peerless ferocious beast that wanted to soar into the sky. Facing the claw of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger, Du Xiaofu directly punched out. He had already used all his strength except for his pulse spirit, martial vein, and purple gold heavenly palace. This was the way of the overbearing fist. Boom! With this punch, Du Xiaofu had already pushed the strength of his physical body to the limit. The aura was domineering and looked down on everything. Roar! Roar! This punch had the roar of a dragon and the cry of a divine elephant. Accompanied by lightning and thunder in the sky, the void in front of the punch exploded. The terrifying rune ripples were like a tsunami, sweeping through the void as if it was going to destroy everything. The seemingly small punch collided with the huge tiger's claw, causing the entire space to shake violently. An invisible domineering aura shook the space, causing the space to ripple endlessly. It was as if thunder was rumbling endlessly between the heavens and the earth. Bang! A low, dull sound resounded through the sky. Monstrous energy instantly exploded and waves of extremely terrifying energy storms swept out. Roar! The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's huge body was then forced back. Its huge claws cracked and blood poured out. Its thick tiger claws had been shattered by the punch. Other than the white tiger and the dark heavenly tiger, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger was ranked in the top 3 in the entire tiger tribe. Any yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger was extremely powerful and could stand proudly in the world. They were also invincible within the beast tribe. And the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's defense was even more powerful. It was said that in terms of pure defense, other than the white tiger and the dark heavenly tiger, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger was ranked first in the tiger tribe. But now, this yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger was actually forced back twice by a human and was even injured. That's the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. He's the one fighting with the young expert from the tiger tribe. There were already many spectators who gradually gathered around. When they saw the scene in front of them, many of them were shocked and shocked. The roar of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger shook the sky. This roar was even more terrifying than the roar of the howling sky demon tiger, causing people's primordial spirits to tremble. As a member of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger clan, this yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger refused to submit to humans. Its huge body once again charged towards Du Xiaofu. Again? Then let's see how thick your skin is. Du Xiaofu shouted loudly. He had just broken through recently and had also cleansed his bones and marrow several times. He was looking for a strong opponent to test his current strength. Du Xiaofu also needed to master some of the divine abilities that he had recently comprehended. The extraordinary yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger in front of him was naturally a good target for Du Xiaofu. Thus, Du Xiaofu battled the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger and used the profundities he had recently comprehended, including the desolate sky leopard's ability. Divine splendor filled the air and the resplendent talisman patterns prevented dusk from falling. The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger attacked with all its might. Its huge tiger body was ferocious and ferocious. Its tiger claws were sharp and could tear the sky apart, causing the mountains below to crumble and the earth to crack. Wherever the tiger claws passed, the mountains and valleys below revealed ravines. The scene was horrifying. Du Xiaofu used one technique after another. His aura was domineering and he roared as he faced the tiger head-on. The area of the battle between the man and the beast grew larger and larger, raising the surrounding area to the ground. Roar! The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger kept roaring. Its roar was also an attack that could affect primordial spirits and make people tremble in fear. One could see that the sound waves had materialized and covered the sky. Rumble! The man and the beast collided in midair. The surrounding valleys were all torn apart. Huge rocks exploded and turned into fine powder. The surrounding spectators were dumbfounded. They were all trembling under the terrifying aura. The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger became more and more alarmed. Every time its terrifying tiger claws fell, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The surrounding gazes were mostly focused on the purple-robed youth. In comparison, the purple-robed youth's body was small and insignificant. However, when he collided with the huge tiger, the purple-robed youth's fists landed on flesh. Mysterious runes filled the sky and muffled sounds were like thunder. Demon King Du Xiaofu is too strong. Some of the spectating youths were shocked. That Demon King Du Xiaofu was too strong. He did not use any weapon, but he was not at a disadvantage when he collided with the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger. Everyone could see that even the Demon King Du Xiaofu was suppressing the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger in a physical collision. It was as if he was trampling on the huge tiger. Suppress! Finally, it was time for the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger to use all its strength. The yellow runes on its body erupted and dazzling mysterious runes swept out. Finally, they turned into circles of golden rune halos. It was like a huge net that covered the sky and covered the sun. A ferocious tiger shadow roared above it. The rune net was dazzling. It was like a sun that had just fallen and was suppressing Du Xiaofu. The terrifying pressure caused the heavens and earth to tremble. Many of the surrounding spectators trembled. The terrifying pressure was too strong. It was as if a real tiger had descended and could suppress all living things. This is the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's heaven-trapping net. It is an innate divine ability that can suppress everything. That is a yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger at the level of a nirvana beast venerable. If a peak martial venerable were to encounter it, I'm afraid even a peak martial venerable would not be able to take advantage of it. The discussions were filled with shock. Some of the super experts who were watching from afar were also shocked. What a powerful divine ability! At this moment, Du Xiaofu was also a little moved. This yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger was definitely extremely powerful. Besides his trump card, he could be considered to have used all of his strength. That terrifying pressure came pressing down. Suddenly, a tyrannical and terrifying aura erupted from Du Xiaofu's body like a torrent in this short period of time. The golden light around Du Xiaofu's body soared into the sky like a rising sun. It was as if a golden-winged rock was spreading its wings. In the next moment, the golden runes on Du Xiaofu's back condensed into a pair of rock wings. It was as if he was about to transform into a golden-winged rock. Rumble! The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's pressure enveloped the area. Under the terrifying aura, the ground below that had already been raised to the ground was suddenly filled with dust and gravel, and the ground was constantly exploding. The terrifying pressure was like a real tiger descending, shaking the mountains and rivers. Boom! Boom! Du Xiaofu flapped his wings and swept across the sky, forcefully suppressing the enemy. Golden rays of light blossomed in the sky as his overbearing and terrifying aura overflowed into the sky. His movements were grand, overbearing, fierce, and domineering, and he was like a rock that flapped its wings and soared through the 9 heavens. The confrontation between the two was like thunder in the sky. A series of runes burst out like gorgeous fireworks, causing the entire sky to be resplendent. Behind that resplendent light, there was an astonishing pressure. It was as if it was about to destroy everything. The surrounding heaven and earth trembled. The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's heaven-trapping net did not last long before it was destroyed. Puchi, the golden runes swept across. The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger spat out blood from its mouth. Its eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. Bang! Almost at the same time, a golden light burst out. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared on top of the huge tiger. A fist wrapped in golden runes fiercely fell down. Bang! The loud sound was like thunder. Then, the crowd saw the huge body of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger fall like a meteorite, heavily smashing into the ground below. Rumble! The moment the huge tiger's huge body landed on the ground, that terrifying force created a huge crater in the ground. Cracks spread out in all directions, extending into the distance. Roar! The huge body of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger fell like this. If it was any other demonic beast, its body would have already exploded. However, its body struggled to stand up. However, at this moment, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's covetous eyes had already dimmed. It had been ravaged by Du Xiaofu all this time. It had also used all its strength to activate its sacred art. It was exhausted and heavily injured, causing it to be dispirited. With fear in its eyes, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger felt that the terrifying aura from Du Xiaofu's body was too terrifying. It was like a supreme beast. That pressure made it feel fear. It was as if a real golden-winged rock had descended. At this moment, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger knew that the heaven wasteland's star-swallowing python's words were not exaggerated. This Du Xiaofu was indeed extremely terrifying. He did not seem like a human, but more like a supreme beast. Swish! Du Xiaofu swooped down. The golden light in his eyes was terrifying. He wanted to tyrannically suppress the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger. The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger felt the sharpness from Du Xiaofu's body. That sharpness contained killing intent. That human would definitely not let it go. Immediately, its huge body jumped up and fled with all its might. Chapter 1058. Where do you think you're going? Du Xiaofu shouted. How could he let the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger go? Whether it was the blood essence of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger or the fact that the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger had offended him today, he couldn't let it go. Just like the star-swallowing python not long ago, he didn't chase after it, but now he brought the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger to intercept him. With a loud shout, Du Xiaofu's figure turned and leaped out like a bolt of lightning, crushing down with great pressure, directly riding on the huge tiger's body. Then, he waved his fists and directly landed on the body of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger. In one breath, his fists landed on the body of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger, smashing it until golden light gushed out. Too savage. Countless people were stunned. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was too savage. At this time, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger was already an arrow at the end of its flight. After being hit by Du Xiaofu's angry punches, its defense became weaker and weaker, and its huge body began to crack and bleed, directly collapsing on the ground. Roar! The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger kept roaring, the runes on its body shining brightly. It shook its head and wagged its tail as it struggled, using its last move to throw Du Xiaofu off the tiger's back. However, Du Xiaofu suppressed it, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged roc. Like a real golden-winged roc, his punches fell like a demon god, smashing the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's huge body until it was only 3 meters long. Puchi, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger spat out blood. The tiger bones on its body were dense, and its flesh was badly mangled, screaming and roaring incessantly. Too savage, that's a yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger. Blue Fantasy gasped. Her heavenly leopard physique was lower than the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's bloodline. The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger race was an absolutely terrifying existence among the beast race, but now it was being trampled on by the purple robe youth. Du Xiaofu, what do you want? How about we mind our own business? The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger roared. At this moment, he was on the verge of death. Even if his primordial spirit wanted to escape, it was too late. Under the pressure of the supreme beast aura, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's body was sealed. It knew that even if its primordial spirit tried to escape, it would be destroyed immediately. You wanted to take me in as your battle servant, and now you still want to mind your own business? Du Xiaofu cursed loudly. Was he so easy to bully? With a single punch, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger let out a miserable howl. Then what do you want? You don't dare to kill me. If you dare to touch me, my yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger clan will never let you off. The yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger roared. It had originally wanted to capture a powerful battle servant and bring it back to show off. Who would have thought that in the end, it would be trampled on? But when he heard this, Du Xiaofu's originally domineering and fierce eyes suddenly surged with killing intent. Even if he let the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger go today, Du Xiaofu knew that the consequences would be the same as the heaven wasteland's star-swallowing python. At that time, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger would still find trouble with him. It was better to directly deal with it. He had too many enemies. Only by killing one would there be one less. I even dare to touch the dragons. Do you think I don't dare to touch the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger clan? Du Xiaofu sneered. Killing intent surged in his eyes. A golden light erupted from his hand, and a terrifying aura surged out. His fist directly landed on the ferocious tiger's head. Bang bang! A muffled explosion resounded, shaking the earth. As the fist landed, the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's eyes shrunk. Its head directly smashed into the ground. The last trace of fear in its eyes dimmed. Its eyes closed, and there was no more life in its body. Goo goo! All the gazes in the surroundings were fixed on the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger from afar. When its life was extinguished, the surrounding gazes trembled violently. Some people sucked in cold air and swallowed their saliva. Not good. On the cliff in the distance, when the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger was killed, the heaven wasteland's star-swallowing python's body transformed into a young man in luxurious clothes, directly soared into the sky and fled with lightning speed. You won't be able to escape this time. A delicate voice sounded like the sound of nature. A dazzling green light illuminated the void. A graceful figure seemed to have been prepared. She floated like a god and appeared like a ghost. It was Dongli Qingqing. She gently waved her white wrist, and a terrifying green light flew out from her delicate hand. It turned into a handprint and directly landed on the young man in luxurious clothes. When the green handprint appeared, it was like a divine seal had descended. Its power was incomparably terrifying. It emitted a dazzling green light and was filled with vitality. However, it devoured life. Before the handprint, everything turned into desolation. It was mysterious and terrifying. The yellow runes of the green light engulfed the young man in luxurious clothes. At this moment, the young man in luxurious clothes felt fear. His heart trembled for no reason. The terrifying handprint brought along a terrifying aura and pressure, as if it wanted to devour his life. It was too mysterious and terrifying. Bang! When the handprint landed, the young man in luxurious clothes' body shot down from the sky and fiercely crashed into the ground. He had not recovered much from his injuries. At this moment, blood violently spurted out from his mouth as he crashed into the ground, causing the ground to shake. In just a split second, Dongli Qingqing's graceful figure was also recorded. Several handprint runes swept down and directly restricted the young man in luxurious clothes. He could no longer move. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. However, at this moment, the few battle servants that were following the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger, as well as a few other young men and women of the beast race, all of them lost their heads out of fear and fled with fear in their eyes. They fled in panic and did not dare to stay. Du Xiaofu did not chase after them. He was busy collecting the blood of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger. He did not want to miss a single drop. It was an absolute treasure. After the battle ended, the curtain of night had already begun to descend. A few stars were already hanging in the sky. After that, Du Xiaofu skillfully skinned the corpse of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger and took out its bones. He found a place with water and washed it clean. Taking out the medicine furnace on his body, he added various spiritual herbs and a small portion of the remaining 8-star purple spirit fruit vine from last time. Du Xiaofu began to stew the tiger bone treasure soup. Of course, how could Du Xiaofu let go of that pile of tiger meat? The golden-winged rock was able to absorb the energy from the demonic beast's flesh for its own use. The little tiger helped to set up the roasting table. Du Xiaoqing started a fire. Du Xiaofu took out a pile of seasonings and finally began to roast the tiger meat. On the mountain peak at night, the fragrance of meat permeated the air. However, some of the spectators who did not want to leave just looked from afar. They did not dare to come close. When they smelled the fragrance of the meat, they could only fiercely swallow their saliva. Too savage. No wonder he's called the Demon King. Blue Fantasy was shocked. Looking at Du Xiaofu's skillful stewing and roasting of the meat, it was definitely not the first time this guy dealt with those powerful demonic beasts like this. However, not long after, Blue Fantasy, who originally refused to eat the roasted meat, saw Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Dongli Qingqing wolfing down the tiger meat. Smelling the tempting fragrance of the roasted meat, he could not help but give it a try. When the fragrance of the meat stimulated his taste buds, a wave of energy flowed into his body. Blue Fantasy could not help but exclaim in astonishment, "What a fragrant roasted meat! This meat is the flesh of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger. It's equivalent to a precious flesh medicine that can increase one's strength. Of course, this is good stuff." Scarlet Rock had already started eating. He ate heartily, comparable to Du Xiaoyao. Tiger bone soup. Du Xiaofu laughed mischievously and started drinking the tiger bone soup. When the delicious and fragrant soup entered his throat, it immediately turned into a wave of energy that rushed into his limbs and bones, making him feel comfortable all over. Here, this soup is also a treasure that can increase one's strength. Little Tiger picked up a bowl of tiger bone soup and passed it to Blue Fantasy. His pitch-black eyes did not dare to look directly into Blue Fantasy's clear and beautiful eyes. "Thank you." Blue Fantasy was stunned for a moment, then took the tiger bone soup from Little Tiger. "This is also for you." After a moment, Little Tiger passed the last piece of roasted meat to Blue Fantasy. A smile appeared on his face, and his usual ferociousness was gone. Blue Fantasy did not refuse. Instead, she smiled faintly, which made Little Tiger stare blankly for a long time. Dongli Chingching saw this and smiled without saying anything. She turned around and looked at Du Xiaofu, who was still gulping down the soup, as if he was afraid that someone would snatch it from him. In the end, a 10-feet-long tiger and a large pot of tiger bone soup were gobbled up by these few people. Not even a speck was left. My body is filled with energy that needs to be refined. Blue Fantasy was surprised. After eating the tiger meat and soup, it turned into an extremely vigorous energy that swam in her body. The body of a yellow-striped sky-shaking tiger of the Beast Supreme realm at the Nirvana realm was an absolute treasure. Du Xiaofu stood on the mountain peak after eating and drinking to his heart's content. His purple robe fluttered gently as he looked at the bright moon moving westward. Dongli Chingching came to Du Xiaofu's side and looked at Du Xiaofu. Their eyes met and she smiled, making the moonlight pale in comparison. Looking at the woman in front of him, this smile made Du Xiaofu a little stunned. Chapter 1059. This woman was like a fairy of this world. A few strands of her hair fluttered in the night wind, adding a touch of charm to her nobility. Du Xiaofu was stunned by her beauty. She was already a beautiful woman, and now she was even more moving. She was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Du Xiaofu still remembered the first time he had seen this woman in the mountain range of savage beasts. At that time, she had still been young and inexperienced, but she had stirred something in the depths of his heart. All these years, he had often thought of her. Facing her now, Du Xiaofu's heartstrings that had been stirred back then were once again stirred. He had never felt such a feeling before, not even Qing Xingnan. What are you looking at? Dongli Chingching looked at Du Xiaofu's dazed gaze, breaking the awkwardness under the moonlight. You are so beautiful. Looking at you makes one's heart feel comfortable, Du Xiaofu said with a smile. When did you become so glib-tongued and glib-tongued? Dongli Chingching secretly revealed a shy expression, adding to her beauty. After rolling her eyes at Du Xiaofu, she lowered her head slightly in embarrassment. Under the night wind, a faint fragrance wafted from her body. She curled her red lips and said in a soft voice, I once thought that you wouldn't remember me. I can't forget you. I will still think of you often, Du Xiaofu said softly. Will you really think of me? Hearing this, Dongli Chingching looked up. Her clear eyes stared seriously at Du Xiaofu, as if Du Xiaofu's answer was extremely important to her. Of course. Du Xiaofu stared at Dongli Chingching. At this moment, he seemed to feel something in the clear eyes of this beautiful, fairy-like woman before him. Some emotions didn't need to be expressed in words. Just a look was enough for two people who had the heart to understand. Hearing Du Xiaofu's reply, Dongli Chingching's expression did not change at all. She turned her head slightly again and continued to gaze at the night sky. However, the moment she turned her eyes, it was as if a stone had fallen into the water, causing ripples to appear in her clear eyes. Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Scarlet Rock, Blue Fantasy, and the others were already sitting cross-legged and meditating. There was only the night wind blowing around them. Everything seemed very quiet, so quiet that the two of them could hear each other's heartbeats. Roar! In the depths of the mountain range, the roars of beasts could be faintly heard. It was as if there were people fighting in the distance. The two of them stood there quietly, enjoying this rare moment of tranquility. After a long time, Dongli Chingching broke the silence and asked Du Xiaofu, Xiaofu, what do you want to do the most? Become a powerhouse, a true powerhouse? Du Xiaofu didn't hesitate. He gazed at the bright moon in the sky, and a strand of unswerving determination gushed out from his clear eyes. Do you want to be famous in this world, or do you want to take the world by storm? Dongli Chingching looked curiously at Du Xiaofu. Her gaze was very serious. Being famous in the world and taking the world by storm is not my intention. Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with sharpness as he said, I only want to be reunited with my family, never to be separated from my family, never to be bullied, to protect the people I care about, and to protect everything around me. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I will definitely retaliate. It seems that you have a lot of stories to tell. Looking at Du Xiaofu for a while, Dongli Qingqing's clear eyes rippled. She then looked at the bright moon and opened her red lips slightly. Some paths can't be chosen by oneself. Some things must be done by oneself. You've never talked about yourself before, Du Xiaofu said. He took a few steps forward and sat on a flat protruding rock on the mountain peak. His purple robe fluttered as he quietly looked at the moonlight in the sky. Behind him, the little tiger and the others were already enveloped in radiance as they breathed in and out. They don't seem to have much to say. It's not as exciting as yours. Dongli Qingqing smiled slightly. She walked lightly and sat next to Du Xiaofu. Her gentle fragrance exuded an enchanting aura. She seemed to hesitate as she looked at the young man in front of her. Then, she gently opened her mouth and asked Du Xiaofu, "Are you tired?" "I'm not tired." Du Xiaofu shook his head and smiled. "You?" Before Du Xiaofu could finish his sentence, Dongli Qingqing's body suddenly moved slightly. She gently leaned her head on Du Xiaofu's shoulder and said softly, "Don't speak." Her gentle voice sounded beside his ear. It was like a warm wind blowing past his ear, bringing with it a delicate fragrance. This sudden scene made Du Xiaofu absent-minded for a while. He slightly glanced at the girl on his shoulder and didn't move. He just quietly leaned against her. It was very quiet on the mountain peak. The two of them quietly leaned against each other. They could even hear each other's heartbeats. After a long while, Du Xiaofu once again glanced at the girl on his shoulder. Then, he gently leaned his head on her hair. The two of them didn't speak, but at this moment, their heartbeats seemed to be telling each other something. There were emotions growing in their hearts. It was like a seed that had been buried in the depths of their hearts for a long time. At this moment, it was watered and began to grow. Time slowly passed like this. The bright moon set in the west. A gentle night breeze brushed against the two of them. They didn't know when it started, but the two of them had become even closer. They were completely leaning against each other. When the sky began to turn white, after dawn, the morning clouds came out of the mountains. Amidst the green and vast sky, milky white clouds drifted to the mountainside in the distance. The morning sun shone on the mountain range. The multicolored light poured down in torrents. "It's daybreak." Dongli Qingqing raised her head and immediately stood up. She took a few light steps forward. The morning sun was hazy, and her graceful body was extremely beautiful. A few strands of hair fluttered gently beside her ears. As her ponytail moved, it was as if she was out of this world. Du Xiaofu sat and looked at the girl in front of him. She was a fairy who had awakened in the morning sun. She was a banished immortal who had mistakenly entered the world. Her beauty and her temperament moved one's soul and tugged at one's heartstrings. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had an indescribable feeling in his heart. He stood up and walked in front of the fairy, looking straight into her clear eyes. "Xiaofu, what's wrong with you?" Looking at those clear eyes, Dongli Qingqing's beautiful eyes revealed a trace of a complicated look. She seemed to have vaguely felt something, but didn't know what would happen. She was somewhat expectant, but also very afraid. At this moment, before Dongli Qingqing's voice fell, Du Xiaofu suddenly held the fairy's moving face in front of him with both hands. He looked straight into her clear eyes. His face leaned down and his lips directly kissed her. Suddenly, their lips were pressed together. Dongli Qingqing's delicate body suddenly trembled. It was as if an electric current had surged through her body. She was at a loss. Looking at those clear eyes in front of her eyes, her heart suddenly thumped wildly. But at this moment, her whole body began to stiffen, as if she was weak and powerless. This fairy was completely at a loss. But the moist touch between her lips made her whole body go limp and numb. Dongli Qingqing found that her lips, which had never been touched by anyone before, were now gently sucked by him. It was a numbing electric shock. It came from her lips and surged into her heart, causing ripples to appear in her heart. She felt that he wasn't just doing that. His lips were beginning to attack, beginning to plunder. A soft and tender thing pried open her mouth and barged in. It was as if he had forcefully barged into her heart, which was not ready to open. This was a kind of instinct. This fairy couldn't help but close her eyes and instinctively respond. She was a little frightened, a little scared, a little unfamiliar, and a little nervous. Thus, their tongues began to intertwine and connect with each other's hearts. As their tongues rolled, they intertwined with each other's breaths. What are Big Brother Xiaofu and Big Sister Qingqing doing? Suddenly, Scarlet Rock's voice came from not far away. A pair of jet-black eyes with a hint of golden light flickered as they curiously looked at the couple not far away. When Scarlet Rock's voice came out, Dongli Qingqing's delicate body suddenly trembled. She immediately pushed Du Xiaofu away. Her delicate face was crimson. Under the morning glow, it was even more moving. Dongli Qingqing looked not far away at this moment. She didn't know when, but there were many pairs of eyes staring at her. "I'm ignoring you," with a shy face and cheeks burning, Dongli Qingqing rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. Her slender and tall legs shyly stomped the ground. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. Then she could only fly away. Hee hee, Du Xiaofu chuckled. His face was full of smiles as he savored the lingering fragrance in his mouth. However, when he turned around, he saw several pairs of astonished eyes behind him. He didn't care. With his hands behind his back, he stood with his head held high and said shamelessly, "What are you looking at? You're all still young. Don't peek in the future. It's not suitable for children. I'm already a few hundred years old. I think I'm older than you." Blue Fantasy's eyes flickered as she rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. "You're so shameless." Du Xiaoyao glanced at Du Xiaofu, then knocked Scarlet Rock's head. She said unhappily, "Little calf, you really don't know any better. You ruined everything. I thought you could watch a little longer." "What does it have to do with me?" Scarlet Rock scratched the back of her head. She was a little confused. She looked up at Blue Fantasy and asked, "Sister Blue Fantasy, what were Brother Xiaofu and Sister Qingqing doing just now?" Hearing this, Blue Fantasy blushed a little. She said softly to Scarlet Rock, "Your Brother Xiaofu and Sister Qingqing were practicing martial arts just now." So they were practicing martial arts. What a strange human martial art. Scarlet Rock had a look of enlightenment. "Okay, we should leave for Thunder Rolling Mountain." Du Xiaofu's voice sounded. His figure was already in the sky. Whoosh whoosh. Soon after, the crowd's faces turned serious. They began to move, and one figure after another immediately flew into the sky. The group set off once again towards Thunder Rolling Mountain. Everywhere they passed, the savage beasts did not dare to approach. The powerhouses were also afraid of provoking them. That evening, Du Xiaofu did not continue on his journey. Instead, he asked Dongli Qingqing to protect him. He entered the ancient desolate space and refined the blood of the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger into the purest blood essence. He consumed it and continued to cleanse his bones and marrow. Du Xiaofu could directly use the blood of demonic beasts to cleanse his bones and marrow. After refining the demonic beast blood into blood essence in his own body, he could then cleanse his bones and marrow. However, the speed was much slower. Consuming it after refining it into blood essence in a spiritual stove talisman cauldron would speed up the cleansing process. The energy would also be more berserk and the effects would be better. The next morning, Du Xiaofu walked out of the ancient desolate space. His aura was invisibly stronger. The group set off once again towards Thunder Rolling Mountain. At this moment, the Demon King Du Xiaofu's name was even more famous in Tianhuang continent. There was a vast mountain range that was different from other places. This place was full of vitality. The mountain range was misty, and there seemed to be the aura of thunder and lightning in the air. Chapter 1060. Swoosh swoosh. Some of the top experts who passed by this space had extraordinary eyesight and perception. They seemed to have sensed something and looked around. However, these top experts didn't discover anything in the end and could only leave with the disciples of the mountain gate. Whoosh! In the air, the little tiger flapped its wings and flew with golden light. Wherever it passed, it swept through like a storm. Sigh, should I roast it or stew it? It's too complicated. On the huge tiger's back, Du Xiaofu looked very serious as he looked at the young man in luxurious clothes who was thrown to the side by the restriction. It was the Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python. The Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python looked at Du Xiaofu's serious gaze and was scared out of his wits. He had seen the demon king Du Xiaofu stew the head of the green dragon, roast its meat, and drink its blood with his own eyes. After that, he skinned the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger and roasted its meat and stewed its bones. The human in front of him was as ferocious as a real demon king. He was even more ferocious than a ferocious beast. What do you want? If you want to kill me, then kill me. The Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python retracted his trembling gaze. He knew that he had completely lost. Du Xiaofu and that beautiful human woman were both terrifying. Especially this demon king. He wasn't a merciful person. Since he was going to die anyway, as the Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python, he couldn't possibly beg for mercy. You're quite arrogant. I've drunk a lot of blood recently. Your blood is no longer tempting to me. I'm magnanimous. Why don't you submit to me as a servant and follow me from now on? Du Xiaofu looked at the Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python and asked. The blood essence of the mysterious Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python would definitely make Du Xiaofu happy if it was in the past. However, Du Xiaofu, who had already cleansed his bones with the blood essence of the Desolation Panther at the half-domain level, had also cleansed his bones with the blood essence of the yellow-patterned heaven-shaking tiger at the Nirvana Beast Venerable level. At this moment, the temptation of the Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python at the mysterious level was naturally greatly reduced for Du Xiaofu. However, if he could subdue a Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python, it would be a great help. This desolate star-swallowing python was definitely not an ordinary creature. It was not much weaker than the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger's bloodline. Compared to the desolate sky leopard, it was even slightly stronger. You want me to submit to a human? That's impossible. Even if you kill me, it's impossible. The Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python raised its arrogant head. It was a Heaven Wasteland star-devouring python. How could it submit to a human? It even had a few battle servants back then. As the Heaven Wasteland star-swallowing python, only humans could become his servants. How could he become the servant of a human? How could he face his fellow clansmen when he returned to his clan? He wouldn't even be able to raise his head among the beasts. He was someone who didn't even follow Dragon 9, let alone the yellow-striped heaven-shaking tiger. But, little tiger, stop. At this moment, Du Xiaoyao suddenly stopped the little tiger in midair. Du Xiaofu also raised his head and looked forward. He immediately frowned. Then, a stream of light shot out from between his brows. An ancient and boundless chi spread out and directly sucked the Heaven Wasteland star-swallowing python into it. Something's not right. There should be a seal in front. On the little tiger's back, Du Xiaofu looked forward again. It was a mountain range shrouded in mist. With his sharp senses and the effect of his vain spirit, he sensed that there was a seal in front. There is a seal, but it seems to be incomplete. However, ordinary people wouldn't be able to discover it. Du Xiaoyao jumped on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Her talent allowed her to sense the seal. Her pale golden eyes moved slightly as she said, "There seems to be an unusual aura inside. There should be something inside. Can you take us in to have a look?" Du Xiaofu asked Du Xiaoyao. Du Xiaoyao looked at the surrounding people and said to Du Xiaofu, "Although the seal is incomplete, it is still very extraordinary. I can only bring 4 people in at most. You have to bring one." "Okay, I will bring one and leave the rest to you." Du Xiaofu nodded. He had the same vain spirit as Du Xiaoyao and also had the same talent. Although it was not as abnormal as Du Xiaoyao herself, it was enough. Then, when there was no one around, Du Xiaofu activated his vain spirit. Golden light burst out and the mountain vain spirit was almost at the spirit transforming stage. It seemed to have materialized and wrapped around Dongli Qingqing. The two immediately entered a void. It was clearly an empty void. However, at this moment, as Du Xiaofu activated the golden mountain vein spirit, a glowing rune light screen suddenly appeared. There seemed to be a passage in it that could lead to another void. When they passed through the light screen, the golden mountain vein spirit disappeared and a barren space suddenly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. The mountains overlapped, like the divine Thunder Mountain range. Nothing grew there. It was a barren land. ZZ, in the depths of the mountains, there was the sound of electric arcs occasionally. There were electric arcs in the air and on the rocks on the ground. It made Du Xiaofu's thunder martial vein fluctuate for no reason, as if it had felt something. There is life ahead. Du Xiaofu looked ahead. There was no life in this barren mountain range, but there seemed to be life in the depths. There is someone inside. There is more than one. There was a green light in Dongli Qingqing's eyes. She had some small magic skills and could sense that there was someone inside the small seal. This is a seal. How can someone come in? Is it one of those super experts? Du Xiaofu was puzzled and his eyes turned serious. Although the seal was not big, its aura was ancient and came from a long time ago. Ordinary people could not come in unless they were super experts. Dongli Qingqing shook her head at Du Xiaofu and said softly, "It shouldn't be a super expert. Otherwise, it would be difficult for me to detect their aura so easily. Maybe they have some means or something to rely on to enter this place." Du Xiaofu heard this and felt that it was possible. If he and Du Xiaoyao could come in, it could not be ruled out that someone else had other means or magic skills. ZZ. Not far away, a golden light spread out and twisted the void. A golden mountain stretched out. It was Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, Blue Fantasy, Scarlet Rock, and Du Xiaoqing. There are energy waves inside. Du Xiaoyao turned into a little macaque again and landed on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Her pale golden eyes looked into the depths. There should be something special inside. Hide your aura. Let's sneak in and act according to the situation, Du Xiaofu said to everyone. Everyone nodded and tried their best to hide their aura. Then they approached the depths carefully. In a vast mountain range, there was a huge lake in the middle. On the highest mountain beside the lake, a person sat cross-legged. This person was wearing a black robe and was surrounded by faint lightning. His aura was terrifying and there were talisman runes flashing densely. This person sat cross-legged and was connected to the surroundings. It was as if the energy of heaven and earth in this space was surging and gathering towards him. As the talisman runes in front of him undulated and flashed, his aura was like a vast ocean. It rose and fell like the tides, intimidating this part of the world. If someone was here, they would be shocked. This person was obviously connected to a talisman array. There was a powerful talisman array set up in the surroundings as if it was suppressing something. Behind this person, there were more than 10 people. A few of them were at the honorable realm and were extremely powerful. The other people were also martial emperors. They all emitted powerful auras. I wonder when the vice envoy of the Yin Thunder will arrive. We've been suppressing that thing here for a few days. It's really difficult to hunt. When the vice envoy arrives, we can hunt it directly. That thing's talent is too abnormal. Otherwise, if we join forces, we'll be able to hunt it. It's said that Lord Moksha also came to the Tianhuang continent. That's the Lord of Terror. No one even knows if Lord Moksha is a man or a woman. I heard that Lord Moksha's cultivation is already shocking at such a young age. This time, he came for the Divine Thunder Mansion. I'm afraid he wants to compete with Kyushu, the Beast Region, and the Demon Realm. Several people in the surroundings whispered. They were all dressed in black robes and wore black hoods. Only their eyes were exposed. Don't talk about Lord Moksha. That's not something you can talk about. If you don't respect him, you know the consequences. The black-robed person sitting cross-legged on the mountain peak spoke. He was also wearing a black hat. His voice was calm, but there was an invisible, terrifying aura. Upon hearing the words of the black-robed old man, the surrounding martial honorables, whose auras were extremely powerful, revealed solemn expressions in their eyes. They were filled with respect and fear. Lord Moksha was indeed not someone they could talk about with their status in the sect. We'll use a talisman array to trap that thing. We have to be absolutely safe and wait for the vice envoy to arrive. That thing is extremely important to our sect. We've spent a lot of effort and time to find it. We can't make any mistakes. Otherwise, you know the consequences. The black-robed person sitting cross-legged continued to speak. His body was connected to the talisman array, as if he was one with the space. Without a doubt, the black-robed person sitting cross-legged was very powerful. Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Dongli Qingqing, and the others retracted their auras and carefully advanced. However, they still mistakenly entered a talisman array with an ancient aura. The aura was sharp and revealed a terrifying killing intent. Not good. We've mistakenly entered a broken array. Blue Fantasy's eyes narrowed. She grew up on the Tianhuang continent and was very clear about some of the terrifying ancient arrays on the continent. Once trapped in a terrifying array, even top experts would die. Chapter 1061. Rumble. The ancient damaged formation trembled. Killing intent filled the air and froze the air. Killing intent began to descend. The killing intent turned into streaks of sharp sword light that fell from the sky, capable of shattering everything. Quick! Almost at the same time, golden light spread out around Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao. It turned into the shadow of a five-fingered mountain, enveloping Dongli Qingqing, Blue Fantasy, and the others. One by one, they disappeared into the air. Waves of murderous intent poured down. As the crowd disappeared, the murderous intent also disappeared mysteriously. The surrounding void became calm and tranquil. Hisk! Several figures broke through the air and appeared on top of a group of peaks. There was a rich fluctuation of heaven and earth energy all around. There was a great aura that made people feel oppressed. Luckily, I can ignore this damaged formation. Otherwise, I would be in trouble. Du Xiaoyao retracted the golden light around her. Her pale golden eyes were filled with pride. This kind of talent was not available to others. There seems to be a large formation here too. Du Xiaofu retracted his meridian spirit and looked around. This entire space was filled with a strange darkness. There was a huge lake in the middle of the peaks. It was abnormally calm. There's someone there? Dongli Qingqing pointed at the tallest peak in front of them. The aura on the peak rippled. There were many people on the peak. Those gazes were also looking over. What's going on? How did someone break into the formation? On the mountain peak, a dozen black-clothed people in black robes, who only revealed their eyes, revealed a stunned expression. Putting aside how strong the incomplete formations outside were, there were dangers everywhere. The symbol formation that they had set up was absolutely not something that an ordinary person could barge in. Moreover, they had barged in without causing any commotion. Looking at the age of those people, they were clearly of the younger generation. This made them even more shocked and puzzled. No matter how they broke in, there must be no accidents here. Kill them all? A black-robed person sitting cross-legged said. He did not even open his eyes. More than 10 black-clothed men dashed out, their auras fluctuating as they soared into the sky. Soon after, they appeared around Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qingqing, Du Xiaoyao, and the others. The dozen or so black-clothed men were radiating sun-like rays of light, and their terrifying auras erupted. Every single one of them had powerful auras, and some of them even had lightning auras. Their eyes were cold, and killing intent surged. People of the devil religion. Du Xiaofu's gaze immediately turned cold. That identical dress and aura indicated that they were from the devil religion. Trespassers shall die. Within the devil religion, someone spoke. His aura was fierce, and his killing intent spread out. This person had the cultivation of a complete martial saint. Among the 10 or so people, aside from the black-clothed man on the mountain peak, he was the strongest. Du Xiaofu did not speak. He looked at the black-clothed men coldly, and killing intent surged out from his eyes. The devil religion colluded with the divine radiance court, and there was no doubt that it was related to the destruction of Tianwu Academy. After that, the devil religion dealt with the 7-star hall and tried to deal with him time and time again. To Du Xiaofu, this was a grudge that was difficult to resolve. Sensing Du Xiaofu's cold aura, Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and the little tiger also knew about the devil religion. Their auras surged as they prepared for battle. "Leave that 4-star martial saint to me. You guys be careful." Dongli Qingqing looked at the black-clothed man who spoke just now and said to Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoqing and the others. However, for the past few days, Dongli Qingqing still did not dare to look directly at Du Xiaofu. Every time she looked at him, her delicate face would blush. However, at this moment, Dongli Qingqing's expression turned serious. Seeing that the young men and women did not speak and were surging with auras as if they were about to attack, the black-clothed men from the devil religion had a change in expression. One of them shouted. He was a peak Nirvana realm martial saint, and there was a faint flicker of lightning on his body. He was very powerful. Following which, the black-clothed men from the devil religion did not speak anymore. Every one of them was filled with killing intent. Along with the surging of their terrifying auras, blazing runes and lightning surged out, causing the wind and clouds to surge. They pounced towards Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qingqing and Du Xiaoyao. Rumble. Among these people, there were a few martial saints. They could also feel that the young men and women in front of them were not ordinary, so they attacked together. There could not be any accidents in this place. Otherwise, their outcome would be worse than death. The terrifying aura of the black-clothed men surged out like a tidal wave. Rays of attack radiated in all directions, like layers and layers of energy waves sweeping out, drowning the entire space. It was absolutely tyrannical and unparalleled, crushing the heavens. In just a short moment, the Nirvana realm martial saint who attacked first had already appeared less than 10 feet in front of Du Xiaofu. A terrifying palm print and aura swept out. Buzz! Buzz! At the same time, wind and thunder rumbled in front of Du Xiaofu. The purple-gold heavenly palace appeared in his hand. The aura of the peerless divine weapon wreaked havoc in the vast sky. The purple-gold heavenly palace was like a tiger bone and a dragon bone, like a phoenix facing the sun, like a divine turtle entrenched in the ground. It made one's heart palpitate with excitement. Following which, Du Xiaofu attacked. Golden light burst out from his eyes as he slashed out with his sword. Chi Lala. When the sword slashed out, the golden sword radiance connected with the heavens and the earth. Its aura was as vast as the sea, and the sword radiance turned into waves that swept forward. This was not a wave, but a wave formed by the interweaving of terrifying sword radiance. The vast expanse of sword radiance covered the heavens, drowning everything. Chi-la-la. The Nirvana realm martial saint did not even have time to react before he was crushed into pieces by the terrifying sword radiance wave, and his soul was destroyed. At the same time, Dongli Qingqing's beautiful figure was wrapped in a green light curtain that was full of vitality. A palm print burst out from her slender hand, bringing along a mysterious and terrifying palm print as it blocked the complete martial saint. Roar! At the same time, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, and Du Xiaoyao immediately transformed into their huge original forms. The aura of the three of them burst out, whistling through the vast sky and destroying everything. Scarlet Rock and Blue Fantasy were also prepared. They then activated their original forms, and their aura surged like a tide. Du Xiaofu went on a killing spree. He slashed out with the purple-gold heavenly fault in his hand, and several sword radiances swept out. The golden-winged rock behind him activated, and he took the lead to attack the devil religion's martial saint realm expert. When the terrifying sword light descended, the few martial sovereigns at the initial stage and mystical stage were instantly turned into a bloody mist. This was an irreconcilable grudge. Du Xiaofu's killing intent could not be suppressed, and he used the purple-gold heavenly fault in his first attack. This was enough to prove how monstrous Du Xiaofu's killing intent was. In this battle, more than a dozen devil religions experts were killed in this short period of time before they could even react. The golden sword radiance swept out, and in addition to the suppression of the golden-winged rock, Du Xiaofu was like a demonic god at this moment. He was divine and peerless, and the third-to-last devil religion's mysterious level martial saint was also easily killed. Of the devil religion's martial saints, only the last martial saint realm expert was left fighting with Du Xiaoyao, and the perfect martial saint realm expert was fighting with Dongli Qingqing. Damn it, die for me. A sharp and gloomy roar rang out. The black-clothed man who was sitting cross-legged on the mountain peak appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. His eyes were filled with killing intent, and a vigorous spiritual power swept out, overwhelming Du Xiaofu. 8-star Transcendent Talisman Master. Chapter 1062. Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled at that level of mental attack. That was the cultivation of a transcendent spiritual talisman master, which was equivalent to a transcendent martial venerable. The mental attack of a spiritual talisman master was even more terrifying. No one could be careless under a mental attack. Du Xiaofu instantly felt as if he had been dragged into a whirlpool of soul waves. The terrifying soul attack was all-pervasive, and Du Xiaofu instantly felt as if he had been swept into a whirlpool of soul waves. Du Xiaofu felt as if his mind was being pricked by needles. The mental attack invaded his Naiwen palace and attacked his primordial spirit. The mental attack of a transcendent spiritual talisman master was so terrifying. Du Xiaofu's aura began to weaken. His golden eyes began to glaze over. He had been caught off guard by the mental attack and was unable to stop it. The black-clothed man who had been sitting cross-legged on the mountain peak appeared. His hood fell down, revealing an old man who looked to be in his 60s. His eyes were sunken into his eye sockets and his nose had a sharp hook, making him look like a black eagle. Die! The Transcendent Spirit Talisman Master sneered as he looked at Du Xiaofu, who had already become sluggish. His killing intent was not concealed at all. His figure flashed out, and without the slightest delay, a palm print directly fell on the top of Du Xiaofu's head. Chi! Suddenly, just as the transcendent 8-star spiritual talisman master appeared in front of Du Xiaofu, a golden light suddenly surged out from Du Xiaofu's seemingly lifeless eyes. He waved his hand and a stream of light surged out. Runes shot out and carried a vast and fierce aura as it directly charged towards the transcendent spiritual talisman master. Woo! There was a sharp roar like the cry of a ghost. As the runes exploded, the cloud puppet's body flashed out. The cloud puppet was a terrifying killing machine. It directly punched out and destroyed the 8-star spiritual talisman master's energy stream. Humph! The aftermath of the energy swept out and the transcendent spiritual talisman master's body was sent flying. A muffled groan came from his throat and blood flowed out of his mouth. It was obvious that he had suffered a great loss. The cloud puppet had the strength of a peak transcendent martial venerable. It could even fight against a chaotic element martial venerable. When the 8-star transcendent spiritual talisman master used a mental attack, his defense was the weakest. Moreover, the physical body of a spiritual talisman master could not compare to that of a martial artist. Spiritual talisman master was injured in one move. What a strong puppet! The black-clothed old spirit talisman master's expression changed greatly. His eyes, which were filled with fierce killing intent, were filled with seriousness and even extreme fear. That terrifying puppet was too terrifying. There were not many people in the world who could own such a terrifying puppet. Kid, you're from the Celestial Artifact sect? The old man exclaimed in surprise. In his impression, only Celestial Artifact sect would be able to possess such a puppet. Du Xiaofu didn't reply. Just now, he had almost been killed by this person's soul attack. Fortunately, his primordial spirit was strong and had been tempered by the purple gold profound bomb. He also had the desolate ancient space to protect his primordial spirit. Yun Jian kill. Du Xiaofu master. Yun Mu was enough to deal with a transcendent spiritual talisman master. Wu. The cloud puppet had already pounced and swept towards the transcendent spiritual talisman master. Its body was covered in runes and wrapped in a talisman array. Its hollow eyes were filled with killing intent as it bravely advanced. You think you can deal with me with a puppet? The transcendent spiritual talisman master shouted angrily. He was a talisman master, but he did not have the time to set up an array in front of the puppet. The transcendent spiritual talisman master was using a 3-colored transcendent spiritual talisman cauldron. It released an extremely powerful pressure. A blazing aura whistled through the sky and blocked the cloud puppet. The transcendent spiritual talisman cauldron occupied the sky. It was surrounded by raging flames, evaporating the mist in the air and distorting the surrounding space. Woo! The cloud puppet was not afraid. Its body leapt up. Its whole body glowed as it pounced towards the transcendent spiritual talisman. At the same time, the protective talisman arrays engraved on the secret weapon manual and sacred body manual glowed, turning into a mysterious talisman pattern to protect its body. The transcendent spiritual talisman cauldron was too extraordinary. It used all of its strength to activate the transcendent spiritual talisman cauldron, causing the surroundings to boil like a sea of flames. Its terrifying pressure made people's souls tremble. However, the cloud puppet was special. It was an absolute killing machine, and a terrifying killing machine whose strength had reached the peak of the transcendent martial saint realm. The transcendent spiritual talisman cauldron was unable to stop it. Rumble. Afterwards, the cloud puppet continuously attacked. The transcendent spiritual talisman master's transcendent spiritual talisman cauldron was struck by the cloud puppet's palm and fist. The transcendent spiritual talisman cauldron was shaken to the point of almost cracking. It was also at this moment that Du Shaoqing, Little Tiger, Scarlet Rock, and Blue Fantasy transformed into their original forms. They easily killed the martial emperors of the devil religion and swallowed their corpses. Dongli Qingqing, who was only at the peak of the transcendent martial saint realm, was not at a disadvantage when facing a transcendent martial saint. Dongli Qingqing's entire body was suffused with green light, enveloping the sky. The resplendent light seemed to carry the might of the heavens and the earth. Not only was the transcendent martial saint unable to gain the slightest advantage, he was also restrained in all aspects. Du Xiaofu also spread his consciousness around and noticed Dongli Qingqing's strength. He was inwardly moved. So Dongli Qingqing's strength had actually reached such a valiant level. All of you will die. In this short period of time, more than 10 people had been killed by the few terrifying young beasts. The terrifying puppet was also suppressing him in all aspects, causing the 8-star transcendent spiritual talisman master to roar in anger. The black-clothed old spiritual talisman master took the opportunity to condense a mysterious hand seal. When the last hand seal was condensed, the heavens and the earth began to tremble. Walala! Mysterious runes began to appear high up in the sky, and a vast and terrifying suppressive force descended from the sky. He's using the power of the talisman array. The talisman array here was set up by him. Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. The talisman array was not weak. It was at least a transcendent martial saint realm talisman array. At this moment, the black-clothed old spiritual talisman master was connected to the talisman array, communicating with the energy of the heavens and the earth. He absorbed the energy of the heavens and the earth, and the might of his body suddenly increased greatly. It was as if he could imprison everything. The talisman array was very powerful, but it seemed to only have the power to suppress and restrain. It was not purely an offensive talisman array. However, because of this, the suppressive and restraining power of the talisman array was even more powerful. At this moment, the 8-star transcendent spiritual talisman master seemed to have already connected with the heavens and the earth. He mobilized the power of the talisman array, communicated with the energy of the heavens and the earth, and activated the spiritual furnace and talisman cauldron. Finally, he blocked the Yunmu. The black-clothed old spiritual talisman master began to suppress the Yunmu. He even turned the tables and began to gain the upper hand. Not only that, at this moment, the spiritual talisman master froze the surrounding space, imprisoning Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qingqing, Little Tiger, Blue Fantasy, Scarlet Rock, and Du Xiaoyao. Brat, you can go die now. The spiritual talisman master shouted coldly. After suppressing the Yunmu, he immediately charged at Du Xiaofu again. The spiritual talisman master could feel that he had completely suppressed the purple-robed youth with his talisman array. The old man was a spiritual talisman master, so he clearly understood that only by getting rid of the purple-robed youth would he be able to get rid of the puppet. At that time, he would even be able to obtain that terrifying and extraordinary puppet. The broadsword in the purple-robed youth's hand was clearly a divine weapon. There were also those demonic beasts. Every single one of them was a terrifying existence. This was his opportunity, a great opportunity that had descended upon him. Bang! The black-clothed old spiritual talisman master's palm descended, drawing the energy of the heavens and the earth. His talisman array carried a vigorous and fierce aura as it swept down like a raging sea. The former's palm flickered with a resplendent radiance, causing the surroundings of the palm to emit oppressive sounds of space. The pressure was like a destructive wave. The black-clothed old spiritual talisman master wanted to completely suppress and kill Du Xiaofu within his talisman array. Under the suppression of his talisman array, it was impossible for the opponent to have any energy left to carve. A talisman master was the overlord within his own talisman array. He was the most powerful existence, able to control everything. As the palm descended, Du Xiaofu's seemingly suppressed face suddenly revealed a smile. The smile's arc was filled with chilliness. Bang! The former's palm descended, causing the space to explode. Du Xiaofu's body was immediately smashed into pieces. As the energy rippled, he disappeared into the surrounding void. However, as Du Xiaofu's body was smashed into pieces, not a single drop of blood spilled out. An afterimage. This is impossible. The black-clothed old spiritual talisman master's face was filled with astonishment. Everything in front of him was simply impossible. How could that kid disappear for no reason? This was within his talisman array. In just a moment, the black-clothed old spiritual talisman master seemed to have felt something. He suddenly turned around, and behind him, he saw Du Xiaofu, who had just disappeared, reappear. His body was filled with mysterious golden talisman patterns, which transformed into a golden five-fingered mountain phantom around his body. Under the suppression of his talisman array, the purple-robed youth came and went freely, as if he was not affected at all. Tyrannical sword way. The golden wings on his back flapped, and Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly emitted a golden light. An incomparably tyrannical aura suddenly spread out from his tall and straight body, as if a peerless ferocious beast was sweeping across the sky. The purple-gold heavenly tower in his hand directly slashed out. This sword was like a force that could split a mountain. There was nothing fancy about it, it was just a simple slash. However, as the sword swept across the sky, the space where the sword light passed by almost directly collapsed, revealing traces of a vacuum. Chapter 1063. A terrifying and domineering energy pressure spread out from the golden sword light, causing the space to shake violently. What a powerful sword intent! The black-clothed old man's eyes changed. He felt a terrifying sword intent sweep out from the sword. That domineering sword aura made him unable to escape. Boom! In a panic, the black-clothed old man quickly changed his hand seals. A stream of energy wrapped around the sword light. The two collided. There was no sound like thunder, only a terrifying energy turned into chi rune ripples. It was like a tsunami that suddenly swept through the surrounding space. Countless sword lights flew out and shattered. Then, everything calmed down. Poochie! The black-clothed old man staggered back. He didn't know why, but blood flowed out from his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock. Although he blocked that terrifying sword intent, it was still domineering and greatly affected his primordial spirit. Coupled with the effect of the rune array, his chi and blood surged and he was injured again. Just as the old spirit talisman master staggered to a stop, a dazzling golden light spread behind him like a scorching sun. Suddenly, a huge, sparkling and translucent ape appeared. The golden ape was born with spiritual eyes that looked down on everything in the world. It suddenly punched out and landed directly on the old man's back. Bang! There was no movement again. The golden ape suddenly appeared. Its fist was wrapped in a hazy light as if it was the beginning of the world. It seemed to be able to push everything in all directions and suppress everything. There was an indescribable pressure that seemed to be able to make one's primordial spirit explode. Poochie! This punch landed on the unprepared black-clothed old man's back. As his body was pushed back, he spat out blood again. It's just a rune array. It's useless against me. The golden ape stood with its head held high. Its body was crystal clear like a terrifying lord. Its terrifying aura gave people an unparalleled sense of oppression. Supreme Purity Demon subduing arrow. In the air not far away, Dongli Qingqing's voice was transmitted. A dazzling cyan light spread out like the sun. The ancient bow in her hand was emitting a terrifying aura. It was as if an ancient god had awoken from a deep slumber. The mysterious power was awakened. She pulled the bowstring and a light arrow condensed from talisman symbols appeared. Then she released the arrow. 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrows. Dongli Qingqing also seemed to have magical means. Under the suppression of this talisman array, she was not affected much and released 3 arrows in a row. Wherever the 3 light arrows passed, a large area of space was directly distorted, revealing traces of cracks. In a short moment, the 3 rune energy arrows pierced through space with light scars that distorted space. 1 arrow pierced through the ancient beast meridian soul that the perfected Martial Venerable had summoned. The second arrow pierced through the peak Martial Venerable's defense and severely injured him. Finally, the third arrow carried a mysterious and vast aura. It devoured life force and plunged into the peak Martial Venerable's glabella. It directly exploded his head. Even his primordial spirit did not have time to escape. Dongli Qingqing's delicate body staggered back a little. Her beautiful face was pale. The 3 arrows seemed to have exhausted all of Dongli Qingqing's strength. There was a faint trace of blood at the corner of her pale mouth. However, she did not seem to be seriously injured. Where did you come from? The black-robed spiritual talisman master was completely stunned. These young men, women, and beasts were all too terrifying. Not to mention the strength of the purple-robed youth and the tight-fitting girl, the few demonic beasts that followed them were the Baifeng divine bird, the ancient crimson heavenly flame bull, and the desolate sky leopard. They were definitely not to be followed by ordinary people. I come from the desolate country, from the 7-star hall. Du Xiaofu spoke. He wanted to take advantage of his weakness to take his life. He waved his purple-gold heavenly fault and the golden rock wings on his back flapped. So you are Du Xiaofu, the Demon King Du Xiaofu. The black-robed spiritual talisman master was instantly terrified. His eyes trembled and his entire body emitted a chill. He had also heard of the brutal deeds of the Demon King Du Xiaofu. They were currently searching everywhere for the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Who would have thought that the Demon King Du Xiaofu would suddenly appear in front of him today? This Du Xiaofu was too terrifying. He was already so terrifying at such a young age. If he was allowed to grow up, he would probably become a great enemy of the devil religion. Feared, deep fear. The old man knew that the Demon King Du Xiaofu would definitely not let him go. Ka. The surrounding talisman array swayed. This talisman array was originally used to suppress the terrifying thing in this space. At this moment, it was being used by the black-robed spiritual talisman master to deal with the Yunmu. In addition, his physical body had been injured several times and the Yunmu was continuously resisting. Immediately, the talisman array began to sway violently. Du Xiaofu raised his sword and flapped his wings. He and Du Xiaoyao formed a joint attack and were about to attack the transcendent spiritual talisman master. The black-robed spiritual talisman master retreated. He had never thought that one day he would be beaten into such a sorry state by a mysterious revered martial artist. Brat, you won't live for long. Once the vice envoy of Yin Thunder arrives, you'll be dead for sure. The black-robed spiritual talisman master retreated. He was afraid in his heart, but he pretended to be calm and gloomy. He wanted to scare away the terrifying young demon king. Du Xiaofu didn't say anything else. He raised the purple-gold heavenly tower in his hand and a golden sword light directly chopped down. Its aura was overbearing and terrifying. The golden sword light shattered the void and extended towards the former. The black-robed spiritual talisman master still had to use his mind to control the power of the spiritual furnace, talisman cauldron, and talisman array to block the nearby Yunmu. At this moment he was in a panic. Rapidly, A screen of talisman light transformed into a sinister phantom of an ancient beast to resist. Under the sword light, the phantom of the ancient beast was very valiant. It was even able to entangle the golden sword light. Walala, however, in the end, it seemed that the spirit was willing but the strength was insufficient. The two simultaneously annihilated in midair, turning into a large expanse of resplendent talisman fragments. Bang! All of a sudden, a terrifying energy fluctuation rippled across the surface of the lake in the middle of the mountains. Then an extremely strange white thunderbolt swept out and soared into the sky. Along with the white lightning, there were white arcs of electricity erupting above the lake and sweeping in all directions. This white thunderbolt was the size of an infant. It carried a terrifying pressure that made people's hearts stop beating as it pierced through the space and directly bombarded the black-robed spiritual talisman master. In a flash, the speed of the white thunderbolt was inconceivably fast. It immediately swallowed the black-robed spiritual talisman master. Rumble! As if the thunderbolt had exploded, the white thunderbolt swallowed the black-robed spiritual talisman master. Countless white arcs of electricity exploded in the surroundings and danced in the void. One after another, blazing white lightning snakes crazily rippled. The black-robed spiritual talisman master screamed miserably from within the white thunderbolt. His physical body seemed to have been destroyed in an instant. A ball of light wrapped in talisman patterns flew out. That was the black-robed spiritual talisman master's primordial spirit. His physical body was destroyed, so he used his primordial spirit to escape. Bzz. However, at this moment, the white arcs of electricity in the surroundings seemed to have formed a huge white lightning spider web enveloping the void. The terrifying aura of the white thunderbolt rippled like the nemesis of primordial spirits. It easily enveloped the 8-star extraordinary primordial spirit of the black-robed spiritual talisman master. The black-robed spiritual talisman master's primordial spirit screamed miserably. The talisman patterns around his primordial spirit were destroyed by the white arcs of electricity. His primordial spirit turned into wisps of green smoke and was finally swallowed by the white arcs of electricity until it completely disappeared. The surrounding talisman arrays, following the destruction of the black-robed spiritual talisman master's primordial spirit, immediately began to collapse. The spiritual stove and talisman cauldron that was confronting Yunzhan also collapsed. What is that thing? It has vitality and seems to be able to suppress the primordial spirit? Du Xiaofu was astonished. The thunder martial vein in his body began to stir. He could also feel that the white thunderbolt seemed to be able to suppress the primordial spirit. Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit in his mind's mud pill palace felt the aura of the white thunderbolt at this moment and was faintly trembling. Bzz. The white arcs of electricity began to descend and return to the surface of the lake, spreading white lightning across the entire lake. The arcs of electricity connected on the lake, causing the entire lake to be filled with waves of electricity. The scene was extremely terrifying. It was unknown when lightning and thunder began to rumble in the sky. The aura was very terrifying. What a terrifying aura! Blue Fantasy, Little Tiger, Scarlet Rock, Du Xiaoqing, and Dongli Qingqing all took the opportunity to come to the side of Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao. All of their gazes were focused on the shocking scene above the lake. Rumble! Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as the center of the lake exploded. Waves of water and white lightning spread out in all directions and soared into the sky. Only when they saw this scene with their own eyes could they feel what kind of visual impact it was. It was too terrifying. Soon after, under the astonished gazes of Du Xiaofu and the others, a gigantic white thunderbolt tree that was over 300 meters tall emerged from the lake. The gigantic white thunderbolt tree's crown, leaves, and trunk were all condensed from white thunderbolts. The tree's roots were rooted in the lake. At this moment, the entire lake had already turned into a sea of white thunderbolts. Rumble, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Winds rose and clouds surged as thunderclaps exploded one after another. As the gigantic white thunderbolt tree appeared, a terrifying aura descended. White divine light fluctuated and the aura was terrifying. Densely packed white electric arcs filled the sky, as if they were about to drown the entire world. Too terrifying. Blue Fantasy, Little Tiger, and the others were trembling. The terrifying aura was about to destroy their souls. Du Xiaofu's gaze was fixed on the gigantic white thunderbolt tree. At this moment, the thunder martial vein in his body was becoming more and more restless. He began to feel that it was difficult to suppress it. It's a spiritual thunder. Dongli Qingqing looked at the gigantic white thunderbolt tree in front of her. A shocked voice came from her pale lips. Chapter 1064. Spirit Thunder. Du Xiaofu's eyes widened. He was no stranger to spirit thunder. The 3,000 jolting lightning on his master weapon was one of them. The devil religion had been searching for his master weapon all these years for the 3,000 jolting lightning. But this was Du Xiaofu's first time seeing spirit thunder with his own eyes. Spirit thunder is extremely rare. It is a strange object in this world, born in this world. It is extremely difficult to capture it, and to subdue it is even harder than ascending to the heavens. Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu, but rumor has it that if you can get a bolt of spirit thunder to merge into your body, you will gain great benefits. Different types of spirit thunder have different uses. How do you subdue spirit thunder? Du Xiaofu looked at the terrifying giant tree of spirit thunder above the lake. The thunder martial vein in his body wanted to surge out, as if it was being pulled by the most intense force. It is said that if you want to subdue spirit thunder, you have to first destroy its soul. Only then can you merge the spirit thunder into your body. But spirit thunder is not an ordinary thing. Once the physical body of an ordinary person comes into contact with spirit thunder, it will be enough to destroy it. Dongli Qingqing looked at the giant tree of spirit thunder above the lake and frowned slightly. This bolt of spirit thunder is born in the Tianhuang mainland. It might be related to the divine thunder manner. It is said that the strongest power of Jinlei Tensei was related to thunder. From the aura, it seems that this bolt of white spirit thunder can naturally suppress the primordial spirit and even devour the primordial spirit's intelligence. I'm afraid that our chances of getting it are 0. Crackle! White lightning covered the sky and earth. The giant tree of white lightning moved quickly in the lake. A bolt of white lightning swept over, like a demon god baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The white lightning was too bright. This spirit thunder had taken the initiative to attack. For some reason, its target was Dongli Qingqing. That terrifying white lightning carried a terrifying pressure that could suppress everyone's primordial spirit and soul. Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Blue Fantasy, and Scarlet Rock all had to circulate their cultivation techniques to block it. Be careful! Du Xiaofu's figure blocked in front of Dongli Qingqing. With a wave of his hand, a golden light swept out, turning into a golden light that exploded and blocked it. Crackle! The Golden Crackle Atlas Studios when the Crackle Rock editor, Lucas the Golden Crackle and Rock Ball. Thump thump! Under the terrifying force, Du Xiaofu's body was continuously pushed back. His body was covered with white electric arcs, and his hair stood on end. His purple robe fluttered, and the golden wings of the golden rock also overflowed with electric arcs. Crackle! The huge thunder tree disappeared into the vast lake, and everything calmed down in an instant. It was as if it had disappeared into thin air. Boom! Under the shocked gazes of Scarlet Rock, Du Xiaoqing, and Blue Fantasy, the sky suddenly trembled. The white rock thunder red rock that had just disappeared turned into a dazzling ball of white lightning. It was as if a bright moon had descended. Accompanied by a terrifying pressure, it appeared above Dongli Qingqing's head like a ghost. Dongli Qingqing's eyes turned pale. She stepped out with the wave-like carefree steps. Her figure was like a ghost. Dazzling green runes burst out as she tried to escape. But everything was too late. The White Rock Thunder Red Rock Editor, Lucas the Rock Thunder Red Rock Editor, Lucas the Rock Editor, Lucas the Rock Editor, Lucas the Rock Editor, Lucas the Rock Editor, Lucas, not good. Dongli Qingqing's face changed. A mysterious and terrifying energy burst out from her body and protected her. Zap zap. Du Xiaofu stabilized his body as the white electric arcs surged into his body. The terrifying destructive energy poured out like a torrential flood. At the same time, the thunder martial vein in Du Xiaofu's body surged and swallowed the white thunder force that entered his body. It seemed that it was not enough. Qingqing. When Dongli Qingqing was in danger, Du Xiaofu's expression also changed greatly at the same time. He flapped his golden rock wings and rushed toward the spiritual thunder. The white thunderbolt wrapped around Dongli Qingqing. She didn't seem to want to stay any longer. She instantly tore through the air and disappeared. Du Xiaofu flapped his wings and chased after him. His figure turned into a golden flash of lightning and suddenly tore through the sky and left. Let's leave this place first. Du Xiaoyao's huge golden ape body turned into a golden macaque. She said to Du Xiaoqing, Scarlet Rock, Little Tiger, and Blue Fantasy. The white spiritual thunder was too fast. When Du Xiaofu urged his arterial spirit to leave the ancient array, the white spiritual thunder had already disappeared in midair. Du Xiaofu's figure floated in midair. The thunder martial vein in his body was still restless. He seemed to have felt something and immediately flapped his wings to chase after it. It seems to be chasing forward. Du Xiaoyao and the others came out of the array and looked in the direction where Du Xiaofu disappeared. Du Xiaoyao could sense it and quickly led the group in that direction. The speed of the white spiritual lightning was too fast, and it was also silent and undetectable. Du Xiaofu chased after it all the way. If it wasn't for the thunder martial vein in his body that gave him a special sense, he wouldn't have been able to catch up. Even so, Du Xiaofu was left far behind as he chased after it all the way. He could only feel the traces of the white spirit thunder from afar. After a few hours, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared above a dark valley. It was quiet all around. There weren't even any traces of savage beasts. There's an ancient array. Du Xiaofu felt that there were traces of the ancient array's aura. He urged his arterial spirit and carefully plunged into it. Qi! When Du Xiaofu's figure appeared again, he was in a void. There were runes fluctuating around him. An aura that was exactly the same as the white spiritual thunders was rippling around. The void was filled with white electric arcs that gave off an aura that made one's primordial spirit tremble. Sizzle! Not far away in the void, there was a space rippling. The palpitating white lightning intertwined and a terrifying pressure filled the air. It gave off an aura that could destroy one's primordial spirit. Du Xiaofu could feel that the aura of the white spiritual thunder was inside. He gritted his teeth and immediately rushed into the entrance of the white spiritual thunder space. Suddenly, a terrifying white spiritual thunder surged, as if it wanted to destroy Du Xiaofu. The white thunder destroyed his physical body and wanted to destroy his primordial spirit. It was as if it wanted to devour Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. In the void, the terrifying energy could cause cracks to appear in the space at any time. It was enough to destroy the physical body of an ordinary nirvana realm or even a complete revered martial artist into pieces. If one didn't have special skills, he wouldn't be able to exist in the entrance. But Du Xiaofu wasn't an ordinary revered martial artist. Not to mention that he had the thunder martial vein and a strong physical body. Even his physical body had been refined by the purple gold profound thunder. The terror of the purple gold profound thunder was definitely above the white thunder. The passage wasn't long. After a while, Du Xiaofu's eyes lit up. It was as if he had reached the end of the passage. Du Xiaofu suddenly increased his strength and plunged out like lightning. Sizzle! When Du Xiaofu plunged out of the white electric arcs, a glaring light appeared. He couldn't help but squint his eyes. It was almost impossible to look at it directly. After a few breaths, Du Xiaofu realized that he had appeared in the white thunder space. In the void, white electric arcs covered the heaven and earth. An unusually violent energy that made one's primordial spirit tremble filled the space. In the lightning space ahead, the white spiritual lightning that was chasing after them had turned into a huge lightning tree that was 1,000 feet tall. It stood there as if it covered the sky, and the white lightning around it entangled Dong Li and Qing Qing. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.